Please let me know when you see my screen.
Yes, you can see the screen.
Okay.
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Awesome. Okay. So my name is Praise Innocent. I am a management consultant as well as a career coach. And by part of what I do is I host the classes that literally helps you prepare for a job. So everything around job readiness, from your CV or to your application document, from your CV to your cover letter to even your interview preparation, right? And today we're going to be focusing on CV and cover letter writing. And I like to describe this as a masterclass, one that should get you fired up to effectively do this or be able to guide someone through it. So, all right. So a couple of things that we're going to go over today is first an introduction and objective of this class. Then we're going to look at what a CV is and how it is different from what is called a resume. Interesting facts about a CV. Then we're going to then look at the anatomy of a winning CV. By anatomy of a winning CV, I mean what are the elements, of a CV that you should consider to give you something that will tremendously improve your chances to land in a job. And then I would then go over a couple of other tips around creating a winning CV. And then we're going to look at your cover letter and all of the elements around your cover letter. And I hope this, gives you an idea of what we're going to be looking at. So I'm just going to turn off my video so that I'm going to be focused on what I'm doing, and you guys can. I just wanted to turn it on a bit so you can see me and know who you're speaking to, put a face to the name. But can you guys see my screen and hear me clearly? Just so I'm sure.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So an introduction. So like I said, my name is Praise. So I also like a few persons to introduce themselves so I get a feel of who is in the room. And then that would also help us understand how to, how drive this class going forward. So my name is Praise. I have a BSc in accounting from the University of Nigeria. I also have a mini MBA from the Lagos Business School. Very recently, I also, went ahead to pursue a degree in technology entrepreneurship and design from the Nigerian University of Technology and Management. And I also just completed my MBA in leadership and management from the Quantic School of Business and Technology. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is I want you to know that, this is someone who knows what they're saying. So what I'm telling you, what I'm going to be going through with you in this class is something that you can take to the bank any day, and it will most likely, put you on the map. So what do I do for work? I'm a management consultant at Mastercard West Africa. I'm also a career coach, and part of my passion is around human capital development. I'm also the executive director of the Student Personal Development Hub, which is an outlet for me to express my interest in human capital development, career coaching, and just helping people through their personal development journey. I'm very passionate about entrepreneurship and business success, and that's the reason why I do what I do as management consultants, basically helping my clients solve some of their most challenging problems. And like I said earlier, I have a passion for human capital development, social impact, national and continental transformation. Now, the objective of this class today is to equip you to create a compelling CV and cover letter for yourself and to get you hired. That's ultimately my goal. And I also want to get you fired up for your next opportunity by virtue of the things you're going to learn in this class. Now that you know about me, I would like to get a feel of the room. Can I get two volunteers, a male and a female, to please do a quick introduction? I also want to know about your experience so far at the program that you're on and what you're looking forward to getting from this class today. Comfort, Andrew. Awesome. Let's have Comfort. Comfort, if you can hear me, you can unmute your mic and let's hear from you.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
My name is Comfort Andrew. I'm a graduate of law, yet to go to law school. I currently work as an executive assistant and part-time project manager based on contract. And I'm excited to be part of this class to learn a lot for my next opportunity. Thank you very much.
Awesome, Comfort. That was really good. Um, can you tell me a bit about the program that you're currently running here at Net Factory? Can you tell me a bit about it and how's your experience been?
Oh, today's our first class, so like your first or
Oh,
second this program.
oh
So
my
yeah.
goodness. I am really privileged to be your first instructor for this session. But trust me, whatever Net Factory is preparing for you is something that is very valuable. And I indulge everyone in this class to take it very seriously because it can really turn around things for you. All right, let's have the next person. I see. Okay, we already have comfort. I want to hear from a guy. So I'm seeing Deborah. I'm seeing Infinix X619. I know I heard the admin asking you guys to rename yourself. So if you can do that, that would be great. But let's hear from you, Infinix X6819. Okay, do we have another volunteer? I
Good
see.
morning,
Good morning. Good morning. Who's speaking, please?
Morris.
Oh, hi, Morris. Good to meet you.
Okay. Yeah, nice to meet you too, Surprise.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So can you tell me a bit about yourself, Morris?
Okay. My name is Morris Fubara. I'm
Mm-hmm.
currently a core member serving in Benue State. Uh,
Awesome.
yeah, a graduate of mass communication.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and right now, it's just me trying to prepare myself before the service year comes to an end and knowing what the next phase of life holds. So,
Absolutely. I'm really rooting for you, Morris, and I hope that this class is also going to help you do that. So let's dive right in. So now that I know you feel of who is in the class, I hope that I'll be able to tailor this to suit your specific needs. Now, what is um the big question in the room is what is a CV and how does it differ from, people hear CV, they hear resume, and sometimes it can get confusing for some people. And today, part of my job is also to demystify that difference and help you understand clearly what the difference is. Now, a CV in very academic description is an abbreviation for the Latin term curriculum vitae. And that translates or that, you know, directly translates to course of life. That's what curriculum vitae is. The Latin term curriculum vitae translates in English as, or what it means is course of life. Now, by course of life, it entails a summary of your work history, everything that you've done with regards to your work, your academic qualifications, all the skills that you've acquired, your achievements, and everything that you want to show off to a prospective employer but are relevant to the job or application or opportunity that you're applying for, arranged in a reverse chronological order. Now, I'll explain what that means. So you see that the word relevant is highlighted. And why is this important? Many times, or oftentimes, you see that job and people who are job hunting, um, you know, most times don't get the kind of opportunities that they are aspiring for because the kind of CVs that they are putting out to their prospective employer does not communicate to that employer that this person has shown a bit of potential. This person has shown a bit of interest in this specific role that they are applying to. I tend to do like a lot of interviews, and one of the first questions I usually ask people is, what are some personal development steps or effort that you've made towards your interest in this role? And now that question throws a lot of people off balance because many times people are just applying for jobs for the sake of it. You have to ensure that that job that you're applying to, your CV is communicating to your prospective employer that you have the relevant skills, you have the relevant experiences to effectively succeed in that role. And that is why the word relevant is being highlighted. It has to be relevant. You need to communicate your interest. You need to communicate your passion. You need to communicate the fact that when they put you in that role, you're not going to struggle. Now, a lot of people say, oh, I get to learn on the job. But before they bring you to a job, you need to have shown a bit of potential that when you come on that job, you'll be able to effectively deliver or do the basic things that is required of you for that job. And that's why when you're creating your CV, it is important that you consider or reflect on all of the skills and all of the experiences you have that positions you as an ideal candidate for a job, an application, or an opportunity that you're applying for. Now, what I mean by a reverse chronological order is the sense that you have to arrange this set of experiences or this set of skills by virtue of the most recent. So you don't want to bore your employer with what you've done in the past. Let them see what is the most recent thing that you've done. In that way, they're able to, tell, the extent of your experience and all that you've done. All right. So in setting up your CV, it has to be done in a reverse chronological order from your most recent to the least recent experiences that you have. Now, these elements, once you understand them, is what a CV should ideally look like. What a winning CV should look like is a CV that is relevant to the job and is a CV that is arranged in a chronological order. Now, we're going to see subsequently the elements of your CV, what exactly you should be looking out for when creating a CV for yourself. Now, let's look at the difference between a CV and a resume. To be very honest, a US resume and a UK employment CV are technically or essentially the same documents, to be very honest with you. Words like CV and resume can be used interchangeably depending on the context. Now, the word resume largely it originates from the French word resume, as you can see in the deck. And the key difference really in what people consider as a CV or like where you begin to see a bit of difference is when you now speak about an academic CV. But if that CV is ideally used to look to apply for a job, they can be used interchangeably. A CV and a resume are technically the same, thing. It's just a nomenclature difference. But as long as you're using it to apply for a job, that's technically they're almost very similar. Where you begin to then see difference in a CV is when we then speak about an academic CV. Now, what is an academic CV? An academic CV is the CV that is created for people who wants to be in academia, people who want to be professors, researchers, and all of those people tend to have a more robust CV because you need to prove a bit of credibility in the knowledge area that you're pursuing. And as you can see on the deck, someone's mic is unmuted. Please, can you unmute your mic if you're not speaking so we don't distract the class? Now, an academic CV is an in-depth description of your academic and professional credentials, experiences, and accomplishment. It doesn't have a required maximum length, and the information provided is much more detailed than what you find in a typical resume or employment CV. Now, the ideal length of a resume or CV is typically 1 page, but some people can stretch it a bit to a page and a half. But your CV, no matter the level of experience you have, if it's for an employment, should not exceed 2 pages at the maximum, right? And it then brings it back to the question of relevance. The reason why people have a lot of things on their CV is that they're trying to bombard their employers with a lot of things they've done. But that is not going to give you a compelling CV. What's going to give you a compelling CV is a CV that is created and specifically targeted towards a job. And many times you see that you don't have a lot of things to say. Most times you're able to put all of that information in a page. Now, on this deck, you can see some of the differences between a CV and a resume. You see that there is some people like to even go into the nuances to describe, the specific differences. But to be honest, there's not really a lot of difference between the both of them. Now, let's look at what an academic CV is for someone who might be interested in going to academia. An academic CV really, looks into specific details of things you've done, showing some things like publications, conferences and courses attended, teaching experiences, all of those detail can go into an academic CV because, you have to show some level of credibility in a knowledge area for you to get a job in academia or for you to maybe apply for a PhD or something like that. But if you're hoping to create a CV for employment, some of these details might not necessarily be important to add on your CV. Now, why do you even need a CV? Let's look at the essence, why you should even appreciate this class we're having so that you know why a CV is important. Now, a CV is a powerful document that speaks for you in your absence. I say this a lot anywhere I go. When you submit an application, you're not there to defend yourself and say, oh, no, this is not what I mean. Oh, no, this is what I meant. Your CV is only what they're going to be working with. So it has to be excellent. It has to be tailored. It has to be compelling enough to tell the person who's reviewing your application that you are the ideal candidate for that job. It is the first impression a prospective employer or someone who is looking to get you an opportunity has about you, because you're not there to defend yourself. It's the CV that is speaking for you. So you have to pay attention to it, because it might be the only shot that you have. Now, I'm going to come back to this third point. Let's look at the fourth point. It's a multi-purpose document that can come in handy as you journey towards a successful career. Now, you see a lot of applications people make for fellowships, for jobs, for study abroad, for different form of applications. Sometimes might require you to have a CV. It is even beyond using it for a job application. It could be as little as an opportunity to attend a conference or to attend a summer school, for example. And then finally, we see here that an opportunity, it's an opportunity for you to document your life accomplishments, because on your CV, you're selling yourself. Now, this point around it making or breaking your career can be very controversial, and that's why it's in red. Now, here is my opinion or my position on this. Your CV can either make or break a career, because if you don't have a compelling CV, many times the opportunities that would elevate you into the next level of your career, you might not get it, because your CV is not convincing enough, to put you up for that opportunity. And once you don't get the opportunities that you want to get, many times you see that, that can either make or break your career. And I hope that makes sense. For the sake of time, we're just going to look at a few interesting facts about the CV to make you appreciate it even more. Each time you apply for a job, you compete against an average of 250 other candidates. And imagine that you are the recruiter, someone who is having to review people's CV, and you have to review 250 applications. Would you have the time to go through all of them extensively? No. And that's why research says that recruiters spend about 5 to 7 seconds on average going over each CV. And that's why you need to make a good first impression. When I pick up your CV, what am I seeing? What can I say about a prospective candidate by virtue of their CV? That is why it is important that your CV has to be compelling. It has to have the right element. It has to catch the attention of your prospective employer or recruiter. Now, there are a whole lot of other interesting facts about CVs that you can look into. But for the sake of time, I'm just going to jump right into the meat of the conversation, the anatomy of a winning CV. So far, before I go into this element, do we have any questions, any pressing question about any of the things that we've just talked about now? I'd like this to be an interactive class, so I would please crave your indulgence to engage me. Yes, we have some hands raised. So let's have
So
Idris.
far, so good.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
This is Idris back
Is
from Nigeria. I don't really have much question for now. Maybe after the program, but I want to confirm if you will be send all the material, the slide for this class after the program.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that when we get to the end of the class. Okay, let's have Uduak Robot.
Good morning, sir. Good morning,
Good
everyone.
morning. Good morning.
Please, my answer is in the CV of a thing that you mentioned. I really enjoyed the class, though I joined later on. My question is, since you so emphasize on making the CV brief, from what you're saying, it means you don't need much in your CV, but it has to be brief. The last interview I had, and I presented a one-page CV, I was questioned that it must be 2 pages. So in this case, what will you say about that?
So that's a very interesting situation. So there's no standard rule for how, I mean, there can only be recommendations, but there's no standard rule to say, oh, your CV should be 1 page, it should be 2 page. People typically recommend you to have a 1 pager because they want you to effectively summarize only the relevant experiences that you have. But for a recruiter to come and to ask to say, oh, like, why would you have a one-page CV? For me, that is very strange. And I'm not exactly sure why that is happening. It might be maybe because I don't know, they have a specific policy around the organization, around the kind of, but then I feel like that is not the best practice. It is not best practice to say, why don't you have a, that should not even be the bone of contention. As a recruiter, what your concern should be is about the talent and what they have to offer, right? And engaging them in a conversation to ensure that, that they're the right
What is it I should
candidate
do?
for that role.
Please
So
don't
in
do
that,
what Oba. All this.
someone is speaking. So in that situation, if I was in that situation, what I would do is to say, oh, I appreciate, I would say to the recruiter, "Oh, I appreciate the fact that, you pointed this out. However, I believe that, what I have on my CV at this moment you know, is what I have on my CV at this moment is something that I feel that we should focus on right now, because it communicates my ability to deliver on this job. Like, to be very honest, like I'm telling you, this is very strange for me. I don't think I've heard anything like this before, but that is not best practice. You don't come and ask a prospective candidate why they should have a certain length of CV. But then, based on best practice, people try to tell you that, if you put on your CV only relevant information, you don't need to have a really long. Someone is writing on my screen. Please, can we stop doing that? I don't know. Please use whoever is right on my screen, please try to. It's saying Femelo, someone I think is showing Femelo as the person who's doing that. So, but I hope this gives you an insight. Let the focus be around what you have, the skills that you currently have on your CV, and not about the length of your CV. I feel like I'm overflowing that conversation, but yeah. So I'm going to take one more question and then we'll move on. Let's hear from Sahar Kofe. I don't know if I got that right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, good morning, all.
Good morning.
Okay. Yeah, I think the question is similar to the one this woman just asked. And I do see some adverts wherein they limit CVs on 2-3 pages.
Mhm.
Yeah, based on the description. And but me having CV worth 5 to 6 pages and not academic CV is about NGO or any other sort of CV being prepared for NGO
Mhm.
and other sort of work. So how can
Mhm.
I actually summarize it? Because
Okay.
they will only describe, they will only say the CV should be 2 to 3 pages. And then they didn't actually provide the actual credential that are to be included in the 2 to 3 pages. They only say summarize it to 2 to 3 pages. So what should I do?
Okay. So then this brings me back to the point I made earlier about relevance, right? Relevance. Many times people just want to have one CV that they just send out for every job application. If you're doing that, your application journey might not be so seamless. What makes people better fitted for a job is when they tailor their CV to a job. Now, what I typically recommend is you can have a master CV that has all of your experiences, all of everything that you've done. But then when it comes to you applying for a job, you need to consider what the role is. It's not every experience that you have that is relevant to a job you're applying for. Once you pick out the most relevant experiences, with respect to the job description, now for every job that you see, there's a job description that explains to you what the role is about. When you read the job description, you should be able to clearly identify which of your skills, which of your experiences you should include in the CV that you should be sending to your prospective employer. And that's why I emphasize that word of relevance. So you can have a master CV that can now metamorphose into variations of other CVs that you can apply for a job with. So, for example, if you have a background in finance, for example, or if you want, or if you're pursuing a career in say accounting and finance, right? Or maybe, yes, you know that people in accounting and finance typically would explore careers in things like management consulting, investment banking, like credit risk. All of those things are variations, of a CV. Now, if you have a master CV, you can tailor your CV based on the experiences you have to fit for the role of a management consultant. You can tailor it to fit for the role of a finance analyst. You can tailor it to fit for the role of an accounting analyst. But then it has to be tailored and relevant to that job. So once you understand the job description, you should be able to categorically tell what should be included in your CV. And as we go forward, some of the things that are on your CV, you would see that they are irrelevant and you will take them out. And hopefully by the end of this class, you should be the one asking for more things to include in your CV, because we're going to dissect really all of the elements of a CV and what you need to know, add or remove. Let's move on very quickly so that we can make significant progress in this class. Now, the anatomy of a winning CV, the elements of a winning CV. What are the things you should have or see on your CV? The very first thing I want to talk about is the personal information segment of your CV. Now, if you look on the left side of my screen, you see there's an image there that just shows what are the things you should include in your CV. You see your full name, contact information, professional title, resume summary, research interest. So you see a lot of things. Now, of all of these things, let's look at the one that is relevant for you. Now, on your CV, there's a very important section called the personal information section. Now, what should be included in the personal information section and where should it be? The personal information section, should include your name. Your name, because it is important that you have your name on your CV. And this should be bold and capitalized and should be arranged in the order of first name, middle name, and then your last or your surname. Many people get this wrong. A lot of times you see people want to, I think it's an African thing. Many times we want to introduce ourselves. We introduce ourselves by our last names first, our father's name or surnames first. But the global best practice of introduction is your first name, your middle name, and then your last name. For those who don't know, your surname, your father's name is your last name. So that name should come last. So if you're doing this wrong, this is an avenue for you to change that. The next thing that should be included in your personal information section of your CV is your address. Now, let me be very specific about this. Keep it simple. Don't give too much information. I've seen a lot of people on their CVs, they'll write their entire address on the CV. Do you know why that is not helpful? Because you don't know where your CV can get to. Someone can literally track you to your house if they get a hold on your CV. So it's risky. Best practice recommendation is to include just the city and the country, or the city, the state, and the country that you're in, so that nobody is able to get personal information to track you down to your location. Aside from the risk, it is even easier to have it on your CV by just your city and your country. Someone's mic is unmuted. Please mute your mic so that you don't distract the class. Now, it is advised that you do not give too much information. Try to keep it simple. The next thing you want to see in your personal information segment is your phone number. The best practice is to include your country code. Now, I tell you something and I give you the reason why. The reason why we're including our country code is you might be applying for a job outside of Nigeria. Your CV might get to a prospective employer outside the walls of Nigeria. You don't want to give your recruiter the headache of finding the country code for Nigeria, because if they dial 08112, they might not be able to connect to Nigeria. They need to include the country code to be able to connect or send a call across to Nigeria. So it is better to always include your country code in your personal information segment. Don't just put in the 081 because you don't know where your CV will land. Best practice include your country code. The other thing I want to mention again in your personal information segment of your CV is your email. This is very important. Your email has to be formal and official. We don't want to see things like sexybabe345@gmail.com. It is largely unprofessional. If you are seeking for a job, you need to have a professional email address. Gmail is free. I say it again, Gmail is free. Best practice is to include your name on your CV. As you can see here, I have an example of one of the things I'm saying here, so you can see it happening live as I'm telling you what it is. So your email should be really professional. Best practice is to have your name. So if your name is like Comfort Chijoke, it should be Comfort. You can try different variations of it. You can do comfortchijoke@gmail.com. If you don't see the availability of that email address, you can try using things like hyphen. You can try using things like dots, comfort.chijoke@gmail.com, so that your name is going to be on your CV. And when someone's seeing your CV, seeing your name on your CV, and then they're seeing your email address, it's still the same name. So you communicate that it's the same person who has applied for the job that has this email address. I hope that makes sense. So leverage the free tool of Gmail. If you do not have an opportunity to just have just your name with maybe like a dot, you can try including a number. But as far as your name is there, that should fly. Let's not have things like a sexy babe or a maker macho as your email. Please, that is not advisable. Now, this is something I also want to speak about, your LinkedIn URL. Now, if you're a job seeker and you don't have a LinkedIn profile, I would advise that you go and create one for yourself. For those who do not know what a LinkedIn profile is or what LinkedIn is a professional platform, is a professional social media platform, just like you have Facebook and Instagram. But now this is now tailored for professional purpose. Most people on LinkedIn go there for the sole purpose of promoting their professional brand. It is not the regular Facebook or Instagram. It is a professional platform where you can highlight all of the things you've done in your life on there, and you can send someone your LinkedIn profile and they can go and see what you're doing. So it's like a digital representation of what your CV is. So if you're a job seeker, I'll encourage you to create a LinkedIn profile for yourself. Now, if you already have a LinkedIn profile, sometimes it's advised that you include your LinkedIn URL, if available on your CV, because some recruiters might want to see what you're doing on LinkedIn. They might want to see the kind of people you're following. They might want to see how you're selling yourself out there. And, it can be the decision between hiring person or not, sometimes for some people. And then finally, what I want to include here is do not include details like your marital status, your age, your picture, your local government, your gender. And the purpose of this is to avoid biases. I've seen this a lot in a lot of CVs. You get someone's CV, you see their age, you see their date of birth, state of origin, marital status, all of those things. What they do is that they create biases. Typical example, I know you guys know what is called racism. Now, imagine that you're in a country where where racism is pronounced, right? And you're applying for a job. You don't want them to disqualify you solely by the basics of who you are. Let your skill and your competencies be what is speaking for you. Imagine some employers, let's be very frank here, some employers have bias around giving jobs to married people. I know this is a very hard conversion or hard pill to swallow, but it's the truth. A lot of employers have worries around employing people that are married because, and you see some applications will say we limit the age to 25 because they know that people who are 25 are largely unmarried, they're single, they have time to dedicate to the work. All of these biases exist, whether we like to say it or not. So including the details of this in your CV is only going to create further biases for you and even kick you off the door before you have a chance to defend yourself. So it is not important. It is not best practice to include these details that can create biases for you. Let it just be your skills and competencies that are speaking for you. Some people even include their picture. Why are you putting your picture in your CV? What if I don't like your face? So it is very important that we do not include this in our CV. Now, an example of a personal information segment of your CV is what I have here. We have here Chigozirim Justice Nwa here. the person is telling you that they live in Lagos, Nigeria. As a recruiter, I already know that I don't need to know that you're living in Shomolu or you're living in Ikorodu. Another important thing to mention, if you know you're looking for a job in Lagos, don't include your address as Akure. It is going to automatically disqualify you because they consider proximity many times when they are considering applications. So if you know that you're looking for a job in Abuja, find somebody who has an address, or you can just put Abuja, Nigeria, and be sure that once you're being invited for an interview, you're going to be available to attend that interview. Maybe you have somebody who's in Abuja you can go to, but ensure that the address on your CV is the address of the city where you're most likely looking for a job. Except, of course, you're applying for a job outside Nigeria. And we all know that it might most likely be remote, so your address might not really matter. But if you know that this is going to be a physical engagement, ensure that the location on your CV it is in the same city as where that job that you're applying for is. You see many times people are looking for a job in Lagos and they are putting their address as Akure. Nobody's going to invite you for an interview because you're not in Lagos. Because what will be in the mind of the recruiter is, oh, this person is far. We'll now have to consider the fact that they will have to move and all of those. Let us go with somebody who's already in Lagos. So these details are very important. They might be the reason why you're not getting the kind of offers that you should be getting. And that's why we are having this class to open your eyes some of these things, these nuances. And I'm giving you this idea from the perspective of someone who has done recruiting for a while. I hope this makes sense, or this is clear. You can see on the personal information segment your name, your location, and you can even see this example here. This person says Bay Area, California. This is in the USA. They didn't include their specific address. Number 23 Chief Remy Street. All of those details are not important. Include a professional email address, your LinkedIn profile if you have it, and your phone number, including your country code. I'm going to run faster because of time. The next segment I want to speak about is your education qualification segment of your CV. What should be included here? The name of your school, the location of your school, the year of start to the year that you end your degree, what degree did you obtain, what is your course of study. Now we have this other part of it in red because it is optional. Your class of degree, your CGPA if it's high, academic project, etc. Now, the reason why these other ones are highlighted in red is they are optional because if you do not have it, I would not encourage you to include it in your CV. I mostly tell people, if you made a first class, let it be screaming on your CV. If your CGPA was a 4.98, put it on your CV because it communicates to your prospective employer that you are somebody who has dedicated yourself to academic excellence. That can just even be the reason why they are inviting you for an interview. Oh, this person has it. What? I cannot believe it. You might not even have the experience just because of you are academically sound can be the reason why they're inviting you for an interview. Now, for those who do not have it, it is not the end of the world. My recommendation is do not include it. How do they say it? If you have it, flaunt it. If you do not have it, let the other things that you have strength in shine through. So if you don't have the highest of the CGPA, you don't have the height of the class of degree, let your skills and your experiences be what should make a judgment for you. Because some people can include their class of degree and that can introduce bias. So for example, someone is putting on their CV that they have a third class. A recruiter might now become biased and say, and you had a third class. I mean, like you might not even be serious in your school. What is the assurance that you not be serious on this job? Those things can introduce bias. So that's why I keep saying that if you have it, flaunt it. But if you don't, let other things that you have shine for you. There's no need to include your primary and secondary education on your CV if you have a higher education qualification. This thing, I say it a lot. If you have a degree already, there's no need including your primary school. Nobody is employing you because of your primary six degree. If you have a degree, it means that you already passed WAEC. And if your employer wants to really know about your WAEC result, they will ask you to submit your WAEC results as part of the job application documents. But on your CV, it's not relevant. So long as you have a higher degree, you have a BSc, there's no need to include your secondary school and your primary school in your CV, it's just going to occupy a lot of space. Take it out. It is irrelevant because you have done all you have to do to get a higher degree. You've passed your WAEC, you've passed your JAM, and that is why you gained admission, studied a course, and you got a degree for it. So if you already have a BSc, that should be the only thing. If you have a master's, some people don't even include their BSc on their CV once they have a master's, because before you get a master's, you should have a BSc. It is a no-brainer. So always include the most relevant academic qualification you have, except you do not have a BSc, and the only thing you have is your first school living, your West African certificate, like examination, your WAEC. That's the only thing you have. Then that is when it's important to put it in your CV as your education qualification. But if you have a degree, there's no need for that. Your CV can either be at the top of your CV, it can also be at the end of your CV, but this is mostly driven by preference and experience. Most experienced professionals tend to put their CV towards the end of their CV because they want to highlight their skills and experiences over their academic qualification. But lastly, for entry-level employees, they like to lead with their education because most of them do not have the relevant experiences, so most times they lead with education. That's why I said that it is driven by preference and experience. Now, an example of this is something that's also on my own CV. So I'm not telling you what I've not done. I'm showing you what I've also done in my own journey to landing a job. Now, you see my name from the previous conversation we had. My name, Lagos, Nigeria, my phone number with country code, my professional email address, my LinkedIn profile. Now, I led with my education. And this is my old CV. CV I started my career with. This was the CV I used in landing some of the jobs that I have now, right? So I led with my education. I included my school, the name of my school, the location, the year I started that degree, and the year it ended. The degree itself, which is an MBA, like you can see there, the course of study, leadership and management, class of degree. Now, for the other ones that are also in red, you can also include the scholarships if you had them. Like I said, if you have it, flaunt it. And as you can see how all of these things that I've explained to you is shown here. The school, the location, the degree that you acquired, the course of study, and the year of start to year of end. And I hope that is clear. Now let's move into another segment of the CV, which is called your professional summary. Now, this is mostly relevant when you have significant work experience. I say this a lot. If you're an entry level, if you're someone who is starting up on their journey, you do not necessarily need a professional summary, but some people still include it, and I'll tell you how to go about it if you really want to include it in your CV. But most times I advise people who are just applying for entry-level roles, lead with your education. You don't need to have a professional summary. Most times it's the experienced professionals that tend to put in a professional summary, and you see why as we go forward. The next thing that is important to highlight here is that some people without work experience, like I said, they still include it. But if you're including it without and you don't have work experience, you have to speak to your professional summary from a futuristic perspective of what you hope your career trajectory would look like. We'll see an example of that as we move forward. The third point I have here is that it should contain a maximum of 3 sentences, briefly highlighting what you have done, your value proposition to your prospective employer, and what your expectation from a prospective employer would look like. Now, you see an example here. This person says, an experienced banking operations and relationship manager with 10 plus years of managing medium and large scale core banking operations and relationship with customers and HNI clients. For those who do not know what HNI is, it is called high network individuals. Now, this first sentence has done what? Introduce this person in terms of their experience and show what they've done. So he's telling his prospective employer that he has 10 years of work experience in doing XYZ, managing medium and large scale core banking operations and relationships with customers and HNI clients. The next thing they said is committed to excellence. Now they're communicating their value proposition to their prospective employer. Committed to excellence, customer satisfaction, process optimization, and operational transformation to deliver results for customers and clients. This is their value proposition to their prospective employer. Now, some people don't like to put in their expectation from prospective employers. Some people include it. But I didn't want to take that out. I want you to have all the information. So this first example did not include the last part of their expectation from a prospective employer. Some people tend to include it in their professional summary. Another example you see here is a customer service. Sorry. A customer service rep with 5 years of experience solving customer issues. Again, they've said what they're doing, their years of experience, and what they typically have experience in what they've done. So 5 years of experience solving customer issues and increasing overall customer loyalty. This is what I've done. Now, they are communicating now their value proposition. Familiar with support software to monitor the severity and propagation of customer issues. They've also cooperated with other staff members to make sure that the whole customer service lifecycle was addressed regularly. This is this person communicating their value proposition. Again, they did not include their expectation from their employer. Some people will say, looking to join a company that is forward-thinking or driven by technology to solve XYZ problems. That is somebody who is now aware of what they want to achieve with their career or the industry they want to go into. So, for example, if you've been in consulting for a while and you want to transition into the oil and gas space, you can now include the last part and say, looking to join an organization in the oil and gas sector with XYZ capabilities to do XYZ, right? That is you now communicating your expectation. But some people do not tend to include that part of the professional summary in their CV. But just in case you want to do it, that's how to do it. Now, for those who do not have experience but still want to have a professional summary, you can speak to it in a futuristic manner and say things like, okay, a finance enthusiast with a passion for XYZ area of finance, looking to join an organization in this sector or industry to help me achieve XYZ. You see how I'm speaking about this in a futuristic perspective and saying, I am a finance enthusiast. Okay, I am a finance enthusiast, or I'm a prospective accounting professional, seeking an opportunity to explore my interest in, say, um, internal control, or you can say seeking to explore my interest in financial control and treasury management, right? So you're speaking to what you're hoping your career would look like. You're speaking to it in a futuristic manner and saying, this is who I am. I'm a prospective, or I am an enthusiastic finance, and I'm an enthusiastic finance professional seeking opportunities in the oil and gas sector or seeking opportunities in the financial services industry to explore my interest in treasury management or to explore my interest in investment banking and credit facilities, to help organizations drive XYZ. So you're also going to explain your value proposition as well and say, oh, you're going to, with that prospective experience you're hoping to get, you will help your prospective employer to achieve XYZ. Some people might go with a different. So all of this, you can be very creative with it. But what I'm saying in essence is that if you need to include a professional summary on your CV as someone without a lot of experience, you can speak to it in a futuristic manner that communicates your value and interest in the role. I hope that makes sense. So, oh my goodness, I feel like I'm explaining too much. I'll just rush through these things because we don't have a lot of time. But I hope I'll be able to effectively do that. Now, this is the meat of the CV. This is the body. This is the I don't even know, like, what's filming right now. This is the essence, not the essence, but the most fundamental part of your CV is where you're communicating your experiences to your prospective employer. So once mic is unmuted, please ensure that your mic is muted so that you do not distract the class. Olamide Adeoye. if you have your mic unmuted, it would be great to mute yourself. But please, I need to know that you guys are following. Are we following through the conversation so far?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So now let's look at the professional or work experience segment of your CV. This is very essential. Like I said in this slide, it is the core of your CV. It is a section where you communicate to your prospective employer the skills and experiences that will translate to value for their organization. In this set of your CV, ensure that the experiences included here is relevant to the job you are applying for. Consider relevant in bold. Relevant to the job you're applying for. Your teaching experience may be unnecessary if you're applying for an engineering role. What do I mean? I know I've explained extensively what I mean by relevance. If you know that you're applying for the role of, say, an investment banking analyst, right? And maybe you did a stint of work as a customer service rep, and maybe you have other experiences, say, as an accounting intern, as a project management intern, you would know that categorically your experience as a customer service person is not relevant in this case if you have better experiences that communicate your value for that role. So except you do not have any other relevant experience, that is only when you can include, in fact, to be very honest, even if you're including a role that is not relevant, you still have to look for a way to tailor it and communicate the fact that you have some skills that will help you succeed in the role that you're applying for. I hope that makes sense. But you need to ensure that whatever you're putting in your work experience section is relevant to the job in terms of experience, in terms of communicating the skills that you have, and in terms of showing your zeal and passion for that role. Now, in writing this segment of your CV, you need to prioritize achievements, milestones, and value-focused activities. It should be fact-based. Therefore, you should quantify them using figures, percentages, ratios, and whatnot when necessary. What do I mean by this? The expectation is not for you to list out a list of responsibilities. No, that's not going to be very impactful. What is going to be impactful is when you're telling your prospective employer what you have achieved in that role. What are the milestones you have taken? What are the value activities that you have involved in that have also translated to value for both the employer, your previous employer, and to you? And to do this, you need to use facts because that is only when it is credible. How do they say it so there's a very popular saying, show me, don't tell me. Show me how these experiences have equipped you with this skill. Show me how these experiences makes you an ideal candidate to succeed in this role. Don't just tell me, oh, like responsible for carrying out all customer calls from morning till night. That is just a role description. Okay, let's do a simulation. Now, I want you guys to tell me which you would consider most impactful. Now, I'm applying for the role of an investment banker, and I say, okay, let me just say something very relatable. I'm applying for the role of, say, a banker, right? And I've worked in a previous bank before, and I say, I'm responsible for collecting all customer complaints and reporting it to the escalation department. That is one way to say it. Another way to say it would be oversaw all customer complaints and communicated in a timely manner to the escalation unit, which reduced the amount of complaints by 20%. Which of those two statements is more impactful? I want to hear from you
The
guys.
later.
Awesome.
The later.
Why is it impactful?
I think
Okay,
the second statement.
Mhm.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Please
Yes,
go ahead.
the second statement is more relatable because you have facts to back up your experience.
Absolutely. And if you notice, we've also described an outcome. We did not just say what the role is about. We also said how what we did gave a result. You know how we said it reduced customer complaints by 20% month on month. That is communicating achievement. It's communicating something of value. It's telling your prospective employer, if I bring this person on board or more, they would help drive our customer complaints to the lowest minimum because they've done it before. I don't know if that makes sense. So in communicating your experiences, you need to ensure that what you're telling your prospective employer, you're telling them what you have done, the value you've added, the result and the achievement of what you've done in your previous role, so that they can see themselves in the shoe of your previous employer and what you might potentially do for them. The last point I have here is in describing your experiences, only use action verbs to describe your achievement and accomplishment. Let your description answer the questions. What did I do? What did I initiate or create or completed? How did I do it? And what was the result of my action? That is a way to translate or communicate your value on your CV. This is the holy grail. This is the differentiating factor. It is what will tell Mr. A's CV is different from Mr. B's CV because Mr. A is thinking about what's impact. Mr. A is communicating what they've achieved. Mr. A is communicating what they might potentially do for their prospective employer than what Mr. B is saying. This thing is very important. Let's look at some examples. We have this example here. Someone is saying that this person is an account executive. So there's a career path called account management. I don't know if you know about it, but some people are called account managers. What they do basically is they manage clients' relationships. So for example, in a bank, right, you know how you are like you have like relationship managers. As a customer, you have someone who's called your account manager, right? They manage your account, right? That's what this person does. Now, see the way they've communicated their experience to their employer. So now, I also want you to pay attention to how they've structured their experience. So they have a section called professional experience, the name of the employer, the location of the job, the time frame of their engagement, and the role that they performed. You can put it in this way. Some people put it in this other way that is like below the screen. You see where we have work experience. This person says Guarantee Trust Bank, the name of the employer, the location, Lagos, Nigeria, the role that they had, assistant operations head, and the timeline of their engagement. That can be a way to structure your experience, right? Now, let's go into the most important thing, which is your description of that experience you had. Now, for the account executive, they said build relationships with 50 plus clients to understand their needs, resulting in $1 million annual revenue. As a prospective employer, when you see this person's CV, what would you think? Me, I would say, So let me even say the kind of clients we have in my organization is not even up to like, if we have 200 clients and we have 4 account managers, it means one person will be assigned to 50 clients. And this person is really telling me that they themselves can handle 50 clients. And I'm like, wow. They did not just tell me that they can handle 50 plus clients, they also told me Now, because of what they've done, because of how they've carried themselves, they have been able to translate or generate $1 million annual revenue for their previous employer. I'm like, wow. So if I give this person 100 plus clients as a stretch, they might be able to bring in $2 million to my own company. Let's have them over for an interview. I don't know if you get the point. What this person has done is they've communicated their potential to their prospective. Let me see, I've done this thing before. I can do it for you. That's the essence of the description that you have in your work experience section. Let's look at another example that they gave. Exceeded annual revenue targets by an average of 20% during tenure. Thoroughly prepared for over 60 client meetings, resulting in a close rate of 5% above the average. Okay, maybe in my own company, we have only done 20 client meetings, and now I'm seeing a prospective hire telling me that they've done 60 plus. I'm like, what? Bring them over. I want to speak to this person. This is how you create impact with your CV. You're not just reading out your responsibility. You're communicating your achievement. You're communicating your impact. You're communicating your value to your prospective employer. Now, let's even come down to something more relatable. So let's look at this work experience from GT Bank. This person says, manage and supervise a team of 15 people. What is it communicating to you? First of all, this person is a leader. This person can manage teams. Okay, let's continue.
Manage and supervise a team of 15 people.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Levis. Thanks for your contribution. Awesome. It's already telling you that this person can supervise people. Let's say this role you're hiring them for, maybe it's a team of 10 people in that department. Like, he has even handled 15 people before. 10 people will not even be a problem. Let's have him for this interview. Let's even hear what he has to say. The person then goes further to tell you, ensuring their development and the team's overall success by doing what? Monitoring and evaluating their performance and providing constructive feedback. This person has already told this person that, see, once it's people management, leave it for me. I can kill it. The next line, they come and they say, oversee the effective and efficient running of the branch operations, especially as it relates to customer experience, by developing professional relationship based on trust, empathy, credibility, and ethical conduct. Designed and deployed effective. Are you seeing? They're saying, I designed and I deployed effective administration of the vault management system and access control this is someone that is communicating the impact that they've had in their current role. And they're telling you the result, which led to 10% efficiency savings month on month. It is not a repeat of their job responsibility. It is a communication of how they've taken their role and they've added value to it. I think I've spent so much time on this. I'm just going to speak to one last thing. Action verbs. When you're speaking on your CV, describing your experience, always use action verbs. Action verbs are verbs that communicate confidence. It communicates authority. Not in an arrogant way, but in a way of someone who knows what they're saying. Now, if you look through this example, you see words like built. This person is not saying I assisted, I supported the team. They're saying built. It might not be the only person that worked on it too. It might be a team, but they communicated what they built, exceeded, attended. You've seen words like increased, recognized, oversaw, designed, managed. These are action words. If you look at the lower left of my screen, you can see some examples of some words that you can use as action verbs. So when it comes to leadership, you can see use words like accomplished, administered, analyzed, assigned. These are action verbs. Don't use passive language when you're communicating your experiences on your CV. I hope this is very clear. I'm going to move on now because of time. I need to run. These segments are what I consider to be, a nice to have on your CV. We have the certifications, award, accomplishment sections where you blow your trumpet and say, this is what I've achieved. These are the certifications I've gathered. These are the awards I've won. Because what is your CV doing for you? Your CV is selling you. It's your sales document to a prospective employer or opportunity. Here, on this section of your CV, you're showcasing a list of relevant certifications you have attained over the course of your career. So, for example, this program that you're on at Nest Factory, you can put it as a certification on your CV and say, I did XYZ course at Nest Factory. And, it's communicating what? That you have, you have an interest in what you're doing. So, for example, if you're applying for the role of like an investment analyst, for example, there are certain things I would expect from you. You should have taken the CFA foundations at the very least. If you're an accounting graduate and you want to pursue a career in accounting, if you did not study accounting in school, and you say you want to apply for an accounting role, what will communicate to me that you have an interest in accounting is when you have signed up for the ICANN exams. It's the same thing. If you're looking for a role in human resource and you don't study human resource management in the university, even though you study human resource management in university, going for a certification can communicate your further interest in that particular field. You can also include a list of relevant awards, accomplishments, or recognitions you have received over the course of your career in this section. So awards like exceptional leadership. Some people in their companies, they win awards like over and beyond member of the month or staff, like all those kind of things can communicate that, oh, you're someone of value. And this is, something that you can put on your CV to elevate your talent appeal. And like I said here in red, take courses relating to your field of interest to boost your CV appeal. Yes, take courses, win awards. When you accomplish things, put it on your CV. Let it elevate your CV appeal. Let it elevate your talent appeal. And one last thing I say there, don't fake it till you make it. Don't include things that you cannot defend. Don't include things that you have not achieved, because once they do a background check on you and they see that you don't have those things that you claim that you have, it can be automatic disqualification. And as you can see examples of that on the right side of my screen. The next part of your CV is the skills and interest section. Now, this is also an important part of your CV. You need to list relevant skills you have built over time. This could be technical skills like coding, UI UX, Adobe Illustrator. You see the way I underline MS Office Suite. Some people don't even consider MS Office Suite as a technical skill anymore. Because ideally you should be able to use it, and like you should be able to use MS Office Suite if you went to the university because you did your projects, you did data analysis, you have used Excel, probably would have done presentation in class, so you should be familiar with it. That's why I underlined it. It's not something you can consider a technical skill anymore. What are other technical skills that you can build? Software development, UI UX design. Let's say that you're even going for, if you're applying for a technical role, so or even let's say you're applying for the role of investments like analyst or like investment banking analyst. Some of the technical skills that can fall into that career path would be financial modeling and valuation. That can be a technical skill. Data analysis and visualization is a technical skill that you might need. So you need to identify what are the technical skills that are relevant to the job I'm applying for. And if you do not have them, start acquiring them and brag about them on your CV. The next thing I'd like to speak about is including, okay, so I was saying that you can include both technical skills and soft skills. So soft skills like communication, teamwork, leadership can also form part of the things you can include in your skills section of your CV. So it communicates to your prospective employer that you are not just a technical person, you're also someone who can function effectively in a work environment. right? Including the language section of your CV is optional. However, it can become mandatory if it's a requirement for the job or if you have more than one proficiency in an international language. This is very important. Like I said, I do not include the language section in my own CV because why? It's only English that is the international language I can speak. I cannot speak French. I wish I can speak French or Spanish. I would have included it there because it's an international language. But if it's only English, there's no need putting a language section of yours. Some people, I see people in people's CV, they put language, Igbo, Yoruba. You will not speak Yoruba in a workplace. So I hope you guys know. If you can't speak Dutch or Spanish or French or English, what are we talking about? There's no point having it on your CV. But then you see some jobs to tell you, oh, it is essential to, have proficiency in French and English, for example. Then it is important to include it in your CV if you have it. If you do not have it, sorry for you. The last thing I have to say here is include relevant interest you may have now or later in the future. So this interest section of the CV right now, based on best practices, people are saying it is not important to have it on your CV anymore because nobody cares about your interests. It was before where some people have to put, like my hobbies are on your CV just to engage in. So that's like once your recruiter is having an interview with you, they'll say, "Oh, I see that you have hobbies in X, Y, Z. Can you tell me a bit about your hobbies?" Those things don't matter anymore, but some people still include it in their CV regardless. So it's left to you, it's up to you, and it's your choice. We have a lot to cover. I've not even spoken about a cover letter, and I'm already running low of time. So I'm just going to quickly run through this. Another part of your CV you can include a section, this is optional, is your leadership experience and passion projects. So another way to communicate your interest in a specific role or industry is to engage in leadership experience, to have passion projects, right? If you don't have passion projects, it's also good to show some level of leadership experience. So look where your mic is unmuted. Thank you. So if you have experience in leadership, it's also good to include in your CV to communicate to your employer that you're someone who has leadership qualities like teamwork, leadership, like people management, people skills, and things like that. Include relevant leadership experiences you have. This is going to show your employer that you can take ownership, you can be responsible for things, and you can be reliable. Same rule apply as in work experience in terms of highlighting and quantity. So look where please, like, ensure that your mic is muted. If you're not paying attention, stop playing around your phone because you can distract the class when you mute your mic unintentionally. I hope that you guys are even paying attention to some of the things I'm discussing because I don't want to see how passionate I sound about these things because I want you to succeed. And some people are not even focused and listening in the class and paying attention. That's the whole point of this class. If you're not going to be available for it, there's no point being here. I know it's a really long class, but it's important because it's really going to help drive your success moving forward. So, like I said, this section of your CV is optional. If you have it included, if you don't, that's fine. So look where again, your mic is unmuted. I'm going to take you out of this class if you mute your mic one more time. Okay. The other part of it I want to speak about is volunteering. Why is this part of your CV important? I said include relevant volunteering experience to communicate to your employer that you can commit to something beyond financial gain. That's the whole point of volunteering. You're doing something out of your own will. You probably don't get paid for it, but you're volunteering for a cause that you're passionate about. Now, sometimes the causes that you volunteer for can contribute to your overall talent appeal in a way that even gives you an edge over somebody. So, for example, let's say you're applying for the role of an engineering assistant in an oil and gas firm, and that oil and gas firm is very big on like carbon emissions, green energy, like and stuff like that. And you as a person, you have a volunteering experience or volunteering engagement with an organization that is promoting green energy, promoting the SDGs, or promoting things around reducing carbon emissions. Imagine having it on your CV. That can just be what they might look at and invite you for an interview over the next person, because what you're already showing elements of things that are important to us as an organization. Because if we, as a full-blown organization, is committed to carbon emissions, and even before you're joining us, you're already showing that interest, it's already showing cultural fit and cultural alignment between the prospective employer and the prospective candidate. I don't know if that makes sense. So if you're not, if I mean, I'm an ardent volunteer, I volunteer a lot. So if you volunteer and you want to include it on your CV, it's very good to include it. It communicates that you're someone that, thinks beyond financial gain. You can do something that you're passionate about, you're committed to. Include that section on your CV. So like I said again, why is this section important? It speaks to your personal values. It can stand you out in an interview because you have stories to tell. And that's true. You can go into details as in work experience, or you can keep it simple, like the example I have here, your volunteer activities. It might even be the reason or the start of a conversation for you. Sometimes you might be surprised. The recruiter might also be volunteering for that same course that you're volunteering for. There's one particular experience I heard. Someone was volunteering for the Lagos Food Bank, and the person who was interviewing them was part of the executive of the Lagos Food Bank, and they've not seen that person in one of their engagement before. And that was the start of the conversation in that interview, because many like HR professionals or recruiters are looking for icebreakers during interviews. And some of these things can form some of those icebreakers. They want to have a conversation with you. And this particular thing can be it can just be it for them. So now that we've discussed the essential elements of your CV, you know all the elements of the CV. Now we're going to see how it all comes together for you to make it a full-blown CV. What are the tips to creating a winning CV? Like I said here, excellence is often underrated. When building a CV, it is important that you ensure it is excellent, because that is the first impression that your employer have about you. Do not lie on your CV, please. Do not lie. Do not lie. There's no need to lie on CV. Just highlight your experiences. Now, there's a way to be creative around the experiences you have. Let's say the experiences you have are not as glamorous as you want them to be. There's a way to creatively communicate it in a way that it communicates value. So as you can see, these memes that I have on this presentation, someone asked this question on Twitter: how would I write I changed a light bulb on my resume? And then someone responded and said, single-handedly managed the successful upgrade and deployment of new environmental illumination system with zero cost overruns and zero safety incidents. So there's a way to creatively communicate and a not so glamorous experience, and you can make it exciting for your prospective employer. Do not underestimate any experience that you have. It is important that you do not underestimate, but then ensure that the experiences you're including are relevant to the job you're applying for. Get a second and even a third eye review of your CV. See, the worst thing you can do to yourself is when there are grammatical errors on your CV, or when there's typographical error on your CV. Like, it just communicates that you do not pay attention to detail. And it's a complete turn off for a lot of recruiters. Review your CV carefully. Let someone else look at. Sometimes we might not see the mistakes because of we're the ones that wrote the CV. So it's good to give it to someone else to look at it. They might be able to see what you are not seeing because they have a fresh eye on the document. You can go as far as even getting a third eye review of your CV. Another way to go about ensuring that your CV is error-free is reading it out aloud. Just take your CV and read it out aloud like you're reading to a classroom. Many times when there's an error, you spot it when you're reading it out aloud. Review your CV regularly. Take out the old. If there are irrelevant experiences that are not important, as you're gaining new experience, as you're gaining new certifications, take out the old ones. Let the new ones take prominence. Do not include references on your CV. I say this a lot. If your employer wants to get reference, they will ask you when they are sure that they want to give you the job. They would ask you. Most times they will even say, send us to email address of your referees, and then they'll send them an email, something like that you don't need to include. Some people say, like, why it's only in academic CV that you see people including references, Professor XYZ. That's in an academic, but in a job or in an employment CV, you don't need to include your references. Some other tips you can see here from Harvard include be specific rather than general, active rather than passive, write to express and not impress, articulate rather than flowery, fact-based, quantify and qualify, and then write your CV for people who can scan quickly. These are the resume language, what your resume language should look like. Top 5 mistakes in resume include spelling and grammar errors, missing email and phone information, using passive language instead of action words, not well organized, concise, or easy to skim, your CV or resume being too long. What are the do's and don'ts? For the don'ts, don't use personal pronouns like I did this, I did that. No, use action words instead to describe your experiences. Do not use abbreviations on your CV. Do not use a narrative style. Don't tell a story. Be very professional and punchy when you're writing a CV. Do not use slangs or colloquiums. I mean, or colloquialisms, right? Don't use like slangs and things like that on your CV. There's one time I was interviewing someone for a role, and the person says we go run them, and I'm like, we go run what? We go run them. Like, why the hell would you come to an interview and say we go run them? Am I your body? That was one of the reasons why they scored really low in that interview. It's totally uncalled for. An interview is a professional environment. As much as your recruiter might want to make it very friendly for you, do not lose guard and start, being unprofessional. Do not include a picture on your CV. Do not include a picture on your CV. Do not include your age or sex. Do not list reference on your CV, and don't start each line with a date. In terms of the do's, be consistent in format and content, making it easy to read and follow. Balancing white spaces as well. Use consistent spacing, underlining, italics, bold, and capitalization for emphasis. So whatever you're doing, so for example, if you're capitalizing all the title of your CV sections, ensure that all the sections are capitalized. If you're bolding it, ensure that let it be consistent. Don't go and be making your CV look very haphazard, right? List headings such as experience in order of importance. Within headings, list information in reverse chronological order, avoid information gaps, and be sure that your formatting translated properly if converting your CV. So the best format to keep your CV is in PDF. I advise people you don't have to put your CV in a Word document, because Word documents can change the formatting of your CV by virtue of the device upon which it is opened. So some people open CV on their phones. If you open a Word document on your phone, most times you see that it is scattered. Well, if your CV is in PDF, no matter the device the person is using to open your CV, it's going to maintain the same format. And I hope this gives you an idea of what to expect. Now, I've taken almost an hour, 30 minutes to explain to you what your CV should look like. If by the end of this class you don't have a compelling CV, they need to lie you down and cane you 100 stroke, because you have everything you need to write yourself a compelling CV. Now let's look at some examples of a bad CV. Can I have volunteers, please? I need them to, volunteer and tell me what is wrong with this CV and why is this described as a bad CV example? I have Cargill. Cargill, do you want to go first? Who's Cargill? Okay, so let's have Idara in Melbourne Angel. Hi, Idara. Please, can you take the first CV? Tell us what. Good morning. So please take the first CV. Tell us what is, why it is described as a bad CV.
So actually raise up my hand to ask. Okay, actually raise up my hand to ask a question. I wanted to ask a question.
Okay, so you know what's gonna happen, because if I'm pressed for time, can you write your question down on a piece of paper? At the end of the class, I'll take all the questions at once. All right?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Hello.
Thank you.
Hi, who's speaking?
Yes, my name is Adijat Kage.
Hi, Hi, Adijat. Hi.
So about this CV, I think what makes this CV a bad CV is because the person um is addressing himself as I. Like I am hardworking individual who enjoys working. So
Okay, that's
addressing
good.
it directly to yourself is, I think, that's what makes it look bad actually. And also the phone number, writing 070, you don't know where your number will get
Absolutely.
to. I think the country also, and the I think the
The agenda is not supposed
educational, the hobbies,
you're
yes,
saying it. I'm
putting
not saying
hobbies.
that.
I don't know if people still use hobbies while submitting the curriculum, but I think the hobby, those are the things I noticed though. And also,
Awesome.
I don't know if I should ask, people that have been there are some organizations that accept people because of their, I think, their sports this thing. Is it, can you add your sports? Maybe you are a kind of person that likes sports. Can you add it to your CV? Are people being selected with the, maybe because they need someone to play football for them in that period in time, you were available and they accept you to come in and play football or do some athletes and then give you work because of that.
Okay, so
Does it count? Like, I don't know how to put
I
it
wasn't
better.
going to.
I hope you understand.
Yes, I do. I wasn't going to take any questions now, but okay, I'm just going to quickly answer that. So you can include your interest in the interest section of your CV. You know how I said that it's an optional section of your CV, so you can include it there if you love football, you love something around that, right? You can include it there. But no employer is going to employ you because you can play football. Oh. Nobody is going to employ you because you can play football. You have, I mean, the best thing to do for you is it creates conversation in an interview. But employing you because you can play football, to me, it's not best practice. I hope that helps. I'm just going to take one more person because of time. Let's have Raham at Alpha M. I want her to tell us
Good morning.
something. Good morning. Please tell us some of the things you're seeing on these CVs that makes them CV, bad examples on the CV based on what we've
The
learned
first
here today.
the first one actually did not even identify the person's name.
Absolutely. Well done. Go
The
ahead.
email he used a guy email, not really
Mm-hmm.
reflecting his name.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Then I think he itemized getting A in English, C in mathematics, and after
Mm-hmm.
he
That's
has
good.
finished
Good
I think
catch.
he has even finished BSc. So instead of using all those primary school, nursery school, he still uses it in his CV.
Good catch. Good catch. Good catch. Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's go.
Then his work section, he did not identify what skills he acquired during the work experience and other things, what he helps and anything about the work experience. He was
Mm-hmm.
just itemizing the work experience, all the works he has worked.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Awesome. Good. Good job.
The
Good job.
hobby is okay, but it's not a must to be included, which is
Mm.
okay. Then he also added references, which is not also not needed.
Mm-hmm. I was gonna see that you were gonna mention the DOB, gender,
Okay,
marital
in here
status,
it
that
also
could
added the gender, the
bias.
marital status, which is not supposed to needed. The phone number is also having not a plus sign, which
Awesome.
not knowing which location you are calling from.
Thank you so much, Rahmat. Well done. Well
Hello,
done. Please
sir.
let's clap for
Hello.
her. Hi, who's speaking?
Yes, this is Godwin.
Godwin. Hi, Godwin.
Yeah, well done, sir. So for me, right, I think Rama said or basically everything that is wrong with this CV, but then I think the CV is not organized.
Mm-hmm.
It's not
Absolutely.
organized.
Good catch.
So it's somebody reading this, even me, I'm having a headache right now. So it's not organized at
Absolutely.
all. And then for the
Absolutely.
last CV, the third one, the
Mm-hmm.
font is not okay at all.
Very
The
well
font
done.
is
Good catch.
very
Good
bad.
catch.
Thank you.
Good catch. Well done, guys. Now I'm just gonna have some other volunteers tell me why these are described as good examples of a CV. So do we have more volunteers? Let's have more people tell us I want to be sure you guys have been following this class and following all the things we have been learning. So let's have
Hi.
hi Idiongo Abasi.
Hi, my
I see
name
that
is
because
Babase.
hi Idiongo.
So
Do you want to walk?
yes, I
Mm-hmm,
want to walk. What I think from the class we've learned today, what makes
mm-hmm,
this CV good and a
mm-hmm,
the
mm-hmm,
professional CV at that is, number one, the person address went straight with her name, a personal name, a first name, then a
mm-hmm,
surname,
mm-hmm,
by the email
mm-hmm,
and the phone number,
mm-hmm,
followed by the LinkedIn address, which is really important because your employee will personally might actually go there first to check what he has been going through. And
Well
also
done.
from the application part, the person went straight to first of all the school, put it in the capital letter, the
Mm-hmm,
course she
mm-hmm,
studied at the school, and that is for the masters and also the bachelor. So meaning
mm-hmm,
currently this person has two current certificates, the
mm-hmm,
bachelor and the masters. She didn't
mm-hmm,
have to go put the WAEC and put
mm-hmm.
the scores like the bad CV.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm,
From the professional experience, she went
mm-hmm,
straight highlighting her position in the company she was working.
absolutely. Mm-hmm,
She was a co-founder and the design strategy director. She outlined three important things she was doing in the company,
mm-hmm,
which she nailed the points. There's no employee who would basically read the first point and not employer.
mm-hmm.
Second, she went straight to adding where she also worked before, meaning the co-founder is a recent place of work.
Absolutely. Well done. Good catch. Well done.
Meaning
Mm-hmm,
the co-founder is a recent place of work and the
mm-hmm.
marketing sales director was where she worked before she got the current job. So
Absolutely.
she she wrote them down and outlined the years of it's
Mm-hmm,
like the number of
mm-hmm,
and years she worked in that place. So meaning if we had to start from the first place she started working, started from March 2006, which is the first and the below. So
mm-hmm,
meaning that started working, getting her first experience in
mm-hmm,
2007, she left that first position. Then in
mm-hmm.
January, she was a PR and media
Okay,
executive.
I'm going to stop you now. We don't have all the time. Thank you so much. That was really, really good. Well done. Well done. I'm just going to take one more person to tell me about this good CVs and what they're seeing based on what we've learned. So do we have any volunteer who wants to go now? You can
Okay.
just Oh, okay, good.
Good,
Let's hear from Praise. Hi,
good
Praise.
morning. Good morning. Hi. The
Hi.
person, I love the way the skills was well highlighted,
Hmm?
and the work experience also. The person put this CV, the work experience. He put all the work experience according to the most recent
Mm-hmm.
work experience,
Mm-hmm.
and for the For also, he also put professional experience and some specialized training and skills
Mm-hmm.
that the person has, which is
Mm-hmm.
very good. When
Mm-hmm.
anybody see the CV, is going to like employ the CV because he has so many skills and training
Mm-hmm.
already,
Mm-hmm.
and the person also have certification. Put his or her certification here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's just it. And person gave a
Awesome.
professional summary, and the phone
Awesome.
number is okay.
Awesome. 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 This is great. I feel really happy that some of you have already been able to pick up some of these things that were mentioned over the course of the class. You see now how all of this comes together from the person. Okay. Is someone speaking?
Yeah, you have to say something.
So I cannot hear you because your network is breaking. Like Abigail, if you're speaking, I cannot hear you
Can
because your
you
network is
can you hear me?
it's
Hello?
still breaking. It's still breaking. I cannot hear you. I cannot hear you. So maybe you try again. You try again some other time, but I just need to run now. So for this CV, you can see these are CVs that I worked on for people. You see how, all of them comes together from the personal information leading the way to the professional summary to the skill segment, work experience. You then have the other part of the CV around volunteering to leadership. You can see all of that example here, but that's how all of this elements comes together to form one whole compelling CV that you can use to apply for a job. I hope that with this, we will then be able to move into the sister of a winning CV, which is a cover letter. I'm just going to see, goodness, we're pressed for time. So I'm just going to quickly breeze through this because I had to spend a lot of time on that CV part because I wanted you guys to get it so that once you start working on your CV, you would know what to add and what not to add. So for the cover letter, we know that the cover letter is an application letter. It's a 3 to 4 paragraph memo to employers explaining your interest in the job, the company, and your fitness for the role. It is typically submitted along with your resume in a job application. Now, you see that many times when you're applying for a job, there's something called an application packet, right? Which can include your CV, your cover letter, and your documents, right? So a cover letter is also an essential part of the job application process. It is often required for a lot of jobs when you're applying. That's why it's important that we're going through it. Now, we already know what a cover letter is. Now, there's something that's also called a cover mail. A cover mail is important we speak about because sometimes your prospective employer is telling you to apply for a job via email, right? You apply for that job via email. You're not applying maybe through a link or through an application portal. So when you're going to send it via an email, some people still write a cover letter, still have their CV, but it's important that you include something in the body of that email and not just send your CV like that. That can be a remedy for automatic disqualification if you're applying via email. So if you're going to apply for a job via email, ensure that the body of the email has a note, which is what we now call a cover mail. Many times, the cover mail can take the place of a cover letter where you just have a cover mail and your CV attached. That can fly for a lot of employers, but some of them might still require you to include a cover letter in your application via email. It is still important to include a cover mail. What are the important points to note? What differentiates a CV from a cover letter are these things. Your cover letter, personalization is key to writing a compelling cover letter or cover email. You need to personalize it. You cannot have you see, your CV is even more that flexible to use for multiple applications, and a cover letter has to be personal to the person you're applying to. Like it's described, it's a letter. You can't be writing a generic letter to your employer. No, it's not going to fly. It has to be personalized. And that's what makes it a cover letter. Personalization is key to writing a compelling cover letter or email. The expectation is to have unique cover letter or emails for every job application you make. A good way to create a response producing cover letter is to highlight your skills or experiences that are most applicable to the job or industry and tailor the letter to the specific organization you are applying to. A cover letter is dynamic. It can never be the same. Sometimes you can be applying to the same organizations, but to different roles. You have to write different cover letters for each role because personalization is what is key. While cover letters are not always required, many hiring managers still rely on them to gauge an applicant's skills, experiences, and background. Please do not regurgitate your CV. Let your cover letter be an avenue for you to expatiate on a point in your CV that you know is very important for that job role. Finally, it is your cover letter or cover mail can form part of the recruitment considerations, as some hiring managers use it to assess your written skills. A lot of times you see people with typographical errors, grammatical errors on their cover letter. that is remedy for automatic disqualification, because it's telling your recruiter, your prospective employer, that you don't even have the basic understanding of writing, of proper writing. Do you get? So it is important that you ensure that your cover letter is error-free and grammatically correct. I hope that makes sense. You have to ensure that your cover letter is error-free and grammatically correct. So let's move on to some examples. So I have this meme here. I like to include memes in my presentations. This meme here says, cover letters are recommendations written by oneself about oneself. You're telling your prospective employer, see, this person, hire him. This is what he has done, XYZ. So you're recommending yourself to your prospective employer. Goodness, we're running out of time. What are the elements of a cover letter? What are the elements of a cover letter or a cover email? These are the elements, these are the things you should consider. So for a cover letter, you need to include a complete title and address of your prospective employer. So the contact, if you have a contact name, that's fine. If you have a contact title, that's fine. If not, the company name is fine. You can start with Next Factory Company, find the address of Next Factory and say XYZ Ogudu, whatnot, whatnot. That's the company address. Include the city, state, zip code. All those ones are not really important. Just include the state and the country. So you have the company name. You have, sometimes it might be a department, right? So let's say it's the product management, the program management unit in Next Factory that is hiring. You can be specific and say the program management unit, Next Factory Company, and then the address. The next thing you want to consider in your cover letter is the addressee, address to a particular person if possible, and remember to use a colon. So you know how I keep saying personalization. So if you know the name of the recruiter, this is an opportunity for you to show that personalization. So you can say, dear Anna, dear Akinola, if you know the name of the hiring manager. But if you don't, the best practice is to say, dear hiring manager. Dear hiring manager. That is the best bet for you if you don't know the name of the person that you're addressing the letter to. You see why it's a letter? It has to be addressed to somebody. So if you don't know the person's name, you can just use dear hiring manager. The next thing you want to consider is the opening paragraph. You need to make the addressee want to read your resume by what you will say in your cover letter. Be brief but specific. Your cover letter has to have an opening paragraph, a middle paragraph, and a closing paragraph at the very least. And your opening paragraph should clearly state what you're writing, the name of the position, or the type of work you're applying. I'm writing to express my interest in the position of a finance analyst at XYZ company. I am particularly excited about the work that XYZ company has done in XYZ years. Yada, yada, yada. Some people go ahead to say, I'm writing to apply for the position, to express my interest in the position of a finance analyst advertised for on your LinkedIn page. If you want to say where you saw the application, you can then go about to say some other things within your letter to communicate, just to introduce the letter and say, I'm particularly excited about what your company is doing, and I believe that I have the skills and the required experience to contribute or add value to your organization. Then the mid paragraph is where you now sell yourself and go into the meat of the conversation. You explain why you're interested in this employer, your reasons for desiring the type of work. If you have relevant school or work experience, be sure to point it out with 2 or 3 examples. But do not reiterate your entire resume. Only emphasize skills and abilities that relate to the job. Be sure to do this in a confident manner, using what? Action verbs, action words. Remember that the reader will view your letter as an example of your writing skill. I keep saying this. It has to be good. It has to be grammar-free, error-free. And then for the closing paragraph, you need to put what we call a call to action. People will typically say, ask for a meeting and remember to follow up. You need to include the what? A call to action. Reiterate your importance. How I typically close is, I'm going to get an example of one of the most recent cover letter I've written. I can't find it right now, but typical way to close just be, I'm particularly interested in this role. and to contribute valuably to the team, to the program management team. Let's say that's the unit we're applying for. I believe, you know, I don't know, I don't have the words right now. You know how to write these letters. Just say something that, is punchy and catchy, something that will continue to grab their attention even to the end. You can say, I look forward to being invited for an interview to further communicate my interest and skill in this role. That is what your call to action. I look forward to being invited, or I look forward to an interview to further communicate my passion, interest, and skill to deliver valuable on this role. You can speak a bit more about the organization in this closing paragraph if you want to, before you have your call to action. You can say, the XYZ company has continued to, like top, has continued to show themselves strong in the industry, and you look forward to continuously drive the vision of the business. If you know the vision, you can state it there to XYZ and XYZ, through my role as a program officer at the organization. I look forward to being invited for an interview to further communicate for every email you're writing, there's something called the subject line. You need to include a subject, a very catchy subject. Most time people just say application for the role of a program officer at Next Factory Company. Some people can go ahead and say application. Okay, there was one time I heard a story around a lady who was looking for an internship, and she said in her subject, she said, "This is the best intern you would ever hire." And the person that hired her said that that was the reason why they opened that email. Because many times, if you're sending your application to all the CEOs, they don't have all the time in the world to open every email. Hi guys. I'm so sorry. Just realized that I got cut off. Can someone let me know what was the last thing you heard me say?
You were
You were
talking
talking
about
about,
someone who applied
you
for
were
the
talking
role
about
for a
a
job.
girl that said she's the best intern we ever had.
Oh, okay, yes. Okay, I was trying to make a point around the subject line. Thank you so much for bringing me back on. Totally appreciate it. Um, yeah, so I was talking about an intern that she said this is the best intern you'd ever hire. And the person was, sharing that story and saying that that subject line was the reason why they opened that email. So, I mean, keep it very simple many times. Application for the, because most times when you're applying via an email, they probably would be expecting your application, except maybe when you're shooting a cold email. If it's a cold application, and what do I mean by a cold application? An application that is unsolicited. They're not recruiting. They did not say apply here. You just want to shoot your shot. That is when those very unconventional subject line would make sense. But if they are typically expecting your application, it is best to just keep it very simple and professional. Application for the role of XYZ. The next thing you also want to look at in your cover email is your personal greeting. Like I said, personalization. By virtue of you applying via email, you most likely have the name of the person who is handling the recruitment. But let's say you do not know, maybe you're applying to their career website, for example. You can still continue with saying dear hiring manager. But if you know the name of the person who's recruiting via their email, it's good to address them by their name, dear Alice, as you can see here. The next thing is go straight to the point. You do not have the luxury to go into as much detail as you would in your cover letter because email has a bit of, if your email is too long, it's going to be really hard for someone to read it. Email has to be short, sweet, and simple. If an email is too long, people get bored. So it's very important to understand those differences. If you're writing a cover email, it has to be short, sweet, and simple, right? So go straight to the point. And this person says, please find attached a copy of my resume with detailed work experience for the software development team lead position at XYZ company. I wouldn't typically start like this. I would probably say, I'm writing to apply for the role of XYZ position at your company, the same way I would have probably started my cover letter. Then the next thing is I go into the main paragraph where I'm explaining why you should consider looking at my CV, almost very similar to what you have in the cover letter. Always include a call to action. This person says, can we schedule a meeting to discuss my insights and ideas on making XYZ software development quicker and more effective while boosting all major KPIs? Always include a call to action. Always include a call to action. Now, a formal sign off, sincerely, Jacob Wosber, senior software engineer. They included their LinkedIn profile. If you see here, their email is here and their phone number is here, just in case, right? So, like I said, it has to be punchy, it has to be catchy. Do not regurgitate your CV. However, communicate your impact, communicate your value to your prospective employer. I hope this gives you a better view of what to expect when you're creating a cover letter for your next job application. Now, what are the general tips in creating a winning cover letter? What are the general tips in creating a winning cover letter? Please confirm to me that I can see my screen. Hello, can you guys see my
We
screen?
can see it, sir. We can see it, sir. We can see it.
Awesome.
You
Thank you
can
so much.
see it.
Thank you. So, what are the general tips of writing a winning cover letter? Like I said, some of the things I've said in the course of my conversation, you probably see them here. The first thing here is address your letter to a specific person if you can. So, if you know the name of the person, address it to that person. If not, their hiring manager would suffice. Tailor your letters to specific situations or organizations by doing your research before writing. See, I swear to God, this thing is the differentiator for you. If you want to write a really personalized cover letter, you need to know the organization you're applying to. You need to have done your research. You need to have gone to their website. You need to have read about them, know what their business is about. That is only when you can create a very personalized letter, so much so that it is captivating enough for them to want to look at your CV and even invite you for an interview. So tailor your letters, do your research before writing those letters. It will really help you put the words together. Keep your letters concise and factual, no more than a single page. See, there is a ground rule for cover letter, please. It should not be more than one page. There's nothing you want to write that will be more than one page. Your cover letter should be one page. This one is ground rule. If it's more than 2 pages, they should lie you down and flog you. Another point to note is avoid flowery language. Oh, I write apply to your glorious organization that continues to drive. Those are very flowery words. They are not punchy and straight to the point. If I'm a recruiter, that is going to even irritate me because I feel like you're trying to bribe me with all those so what flowery words means for people who might not understand is you're trying to hype somebody, even though they don't need that hyping. So don't overhype it. Don't don't come and start telling us story. I don't know how many of you have seen like the movie Bridgerton. The way they describe that story using all those flamboyant words, what they call, using flowery words to express certain things. So when you're writing your comment, don't use flowery words. Be very professional, articulate, and straight to the point. Give examples that support your skills and qualifications. Give examples that support your skills and qualifications. Put yourself in the reader's shoe. This is very important. When you write your cover letter, pretend you are the recruiter and read the letter. If it's you, will you invite yourself for the interview? Put yourself in the reader's shoe. What can you write that will convince the reader that you are ready and able to do the job? Don't overuse the pronoun. In fact, don't even use the pronoun. You can use the pronoun I, but don't overuse it so you don't sound or like come off arrogant. Remember that the cover letter is still a marketing tool. Use lots of action words. Have a second and third proofread of your letter. See, I cannot overemphasize the importance of having an excellent cover letter without errors, free from grammatical blunders. Have a second and third proofread of your letter. If converting your cover letter to a PDF, check that your formatting translated correctly. This thing around converting documents sometimes can be really tricky. You need to also, if you convert, still look at the document that ensure that it converted properly before you send it out for an application. Because sometimes these tools can be very funny, sometimes, because especially in terms of formatting. So if converting, check that your formatting translated correctly. Reference skills or experiences from the job description and draw connections to your credentials. So read the job. It still boils down to research. Read the job description. I know that this is a lot of work, trust me. Even me sometimes, but if you want to have a complete, if you want to land a job, this is what you have to do. People tell you finding a job is actually a job on its own. You need to do it right. It's a lot of work, but if you do it right, you get the result you're looking for. So reference skills or experiences from the job description. For every job, they have a job description that they put out for you to let you know what the job is about. So read the job description, and that will give you an idea of what you need to talk about in your cover letter. Draw connections from that job description to your credentials. Finally, make sure your resume and cover letter are prepared with the same font type and size, right? I mean, there's no hard rule about it, but I mean, it's better to have both your CV and cover letter in the same format. And then some of the recommended formats you get to see most times is like Helvetica. People use Calibri. I don't usually like Times New Roman and Arial. I like to use like Garamond sometimes. So you can just Google at the top of the best font types for writing CVs and color, and you see a lot of them. Those are really good. I should have added them in my presentation, but like maybe I'm telling you now so you can go into your research, right? So that's pretty much about it. And then here's an example of what a cover letter is. Here is a critical example of what a cover letter is. And I want someone from the class to tell me what was great or what looks great about this cover letter. Let's have our volunteers. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Can we have our volunteers?
Okay, good morning, sir.
Hi, who's speaking? Who's speaking?
Hi, Hanson speaking.
Hi.
Sir.
Hi, Hanson. Your
Hanson.
network is not very clear. I can't hear you very well.
Oh, okay. Next.
Yeah, can we have someone else
Okay,
aside
good
from Abigail?
morning.
Hi, Maurice. Hi, good morning. Good afternoon. It's afternoon already. Oh my God. I hope you get an old board of me already.
Sorry about that. No,
It's
no,
okay.
no, no. It's all good. Okay, so the sample here, it's a great one. The person started for the salutation line. The person started, since the person does not know who exactly he or she is writing to, it's when the person went with hiring manager. And also there's a space there in case the person knows the person's name, hiring manager, or
Absolutely.
you put the person's name in the example you gave earlier.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Alex. And the first paragraph there with I. So the person is being intentional. The person is being the person that would I, that's the pronoun I, is to say, okay, I've done this, and this is who I am. And I'm applying for this position. The person was specific for the position he or she is going for. The company name, that's to say the person has done his research. They say, okay, I'm applying for this position in the company, and how I found out about this position. The person has done his research. That's why the person is confident enough to say ABC about the whole company.
Very good.
And okay. Yeah. For the second paragraph, the person is talking about his skills.
Mm-hmm.
I have these skills and I've worked for this long in this area. So the person is now selling his or herself. This is why I feel I fit the position that was being advertised. So the person is basically selling his or her skill set and why
Mm-hmm.
he or she feels is the perfect fit for that position. Then for the
Mm-hmm.
third paragraph,
Mm-hmm.
okay, the person is still going further to say, okay, I've worked here and acquired this understanding, and I feel this experiences I've gotten from XYZ can help me fit perfectly into this job description I'm applying for and all that. So the last paragraph is the person selling his or herself, saying, oh, okay, I've stated all these things. I would love to come in person and let's have a physical interview whereby
Absolutely.
we get to know ourselves and all that.
Absolutely.
And a salutation saying, oh, thank you for your time and consideration, regards, and a sign out.
Well done. Please, a round of applause for
So
Morris, please. A round of applause for Morris. Well done. I think that was really good. Thank you so much for yes, thank you, Chema, for the clap. Yeah, well done, Morris. I feel like that was really spot on. So we see how, people typically do this. This is not a one size fits all. There's no one size fits all way to go about it. You just need to understand the basic principle around it, right? Try to personalize it, express your particular interest in the company, express your skills and qualification to do the job, and communicate your passion to contribute to the vision of the business. And do not forget your call to action and salutations, right?
Hello, sir.
So, hi. Hi, Sahar.
Yeah. Okay. This cover letter didn't carry the address of the hiring manager or
Yeah.
the company.
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay?
No. So ideally, it should have the name of the company. It should
It
have.
does.
So I don't know. So so you see the reason why we are having this class, right? We've already discussed what it should be like. So when you see something is wrong, you're able to spot it. So technically, there's something ideally. What should take the space of this your name email should be the name of the addressee, the person to whom you're addressing the letter to should ideally be here before all of the details that follow suit, right? So I'm glad that you mentioned that, but please ensure that it's the name of the company. So instead of your name, let it be the company name. You don't need to have the email address of the company, just add the address of the company, and that should be it. Then dear Harry, don't even need to include the date. Dear hiring manager should just come next. What some people do typically is that they include, so they write like a header. So they do like their CV. They put their name. Some people do that, but I mean, I feel like they already have your CV. There's no point to go over that. But some people eventually have to put their name, their email address, and then put the address of the prospective employer on this side of it. But please, it's very well done that you called that out. Thank you for calling it out. I just want to also reemphasize that I almost forgot that. To ensure that it's the name of the company address, and you can move on to the next part of it. All right?
So good afternoon,
Awesome.
sir.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much for your time and the effort you put in to get us understand this. I'm sorry, I have a question, but I've never been I've never seen myself in the corporate world, so I've been that interested. So I may not know certain things I should have known. So something that amazes me is, I don't know, the cover letter, you said we should start the cover letter writing by their Yinka also. So I don't know, is that a first name? Should we address a person with the first name or the last name? And doesn't it sound rude? I don't know. I'm just curious.
Okay, that's a good question. So many times in the corporate space, right, people typically would ask that you address them by their first name. I think that's like should I say, so you know how things are known, but then it's not said, right? I know there was a time very recently I saw a conversation with someone on LinkedIn. So they reached out to someone on LinkedIn and they addressed the person by their first name. To be very honest, this conversation around first name and last name is largely cultural. For example, here in Africa and Nigeria, we like to hang respect on our neck. People consider respect when you say Mr. or Mrs. But to be very honest, by virtue of global best practice, it's often expected that you address people by their first name. All the places I've worked, right? I know it was a struggle, but then they'll always tell you in a professional setting, most likely address people by their first name. But I mean, the reason why I'm saying this is you might not know the culture within the organization that you're applying to is, right? But based on global best practice, if your prospective employer does not want people to say sir or ma when you come for your onboarding and orientation, you will be well aware of this. But when you don't have this information, you need to go with what is most obtainable. What is the global best practice for things like this? So addressing people by their first name is what is obtainable globally. Dear Sarah, hi Sarah, dear Muhammad. As in, that's what you typically find in a professional setting. So I wouldn't say come and start saying Mr. or Mrs. That would not be my recommendation. I would say go with first name if they are not comfortable with it. If they disqualify you because you did not say Mr. or Mrs., then it's a red flag on that organization. Because to be very honest, you're looking for a job, right? You also need to consider you as much as your prospective employer is assessing you, you're also assessing your prospective employer if it's even the right organization for you to thrive in. So if an organization or a recruiter is going to disqualify because you did not say Mr. or Mrs., then you just dodge the bullets. Take it from me anytime. And like I said, based on global best practice, their first name is the best way to go about it. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much, so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I don't have a lot of time anymore. I don't know if I will come and throw me out of this class. I want someone to volunteer to tell me why this is a bad cover letter and why this is a good cover letter.
Hi, Praise. 1 second,
Hi.
sorry. So this
Hi,
class is supposed to end by 2. Actually, it's a space from 10 to 2.
Oh, okay.
Stop your time.
I think I have to like 2. I didn't have that much time. But okay. So I'm a bit distracted from the noise in the background. So if your mic is unmuted, please try to ensure that your mic is muted. Thank you. So can we have our volunteers now come and give us examples of why this is? Hi, Praise.
Hi, good morning.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
So,
We have a lot of people. Okay. Let's take Praise and then we'll go with
okay,
Lewis.
the person addressing, it was instead of addressing with the name or the hiring manager, he used their Salma. And the person don't have any relevant skills regarding the job description. He don't have any experience. And the person right now is trying to say the reason he's looking for the job is to buy a car. And for me, it's the red flag. If I'm employing and you're saying this, you won't get the job because I feel like after you get the money for the car, you will not be able to do my job properly.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree with you. What
Okay, that was it. And for this, the other part, for the good cover letter, the person has experience. The way the person wrote, like the writing is so good. I love it. And Sorry, I'm not seeing this very well, so I will have to stop here. It's kind of
I
really
don't know if you can zoom it in. Is it better now? Can you see it now?
Yes,
Yeah, good
yes, it's
morning.
better now.
Okay, let's hear
Ah,
from Larry. Sure, you don't score the points, praise. Let's hear from Larry. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everyone.
Yeah,
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
yeah, it's me,
Yeah.
Melvin.
Yeah.
Let me see the first letter. The bad letter, let me see it. So I will go back to the, okay. First of all, the address is not properly arranged.
Mm-hmm.
That's one
Is it for
thing.
the
And
good or the
the
bad?
front side.
Which one
No,
are
I'm
you
talking
reviewing?
for the good, the bad. I'm reviewing the bad.
Okay. Good.
Let
Go ahead.
me drag it properly.
Okay.
The address is not properly arranged.
Mm-hmm.
And the front size, the person did not use the proper font size
Mm-hmm.
for the letter. Yeah, and there is so many grammatical errors, and he or she didn't put any job experience or anything or any experience, nothing like that.
Okay.
And
Okay.
yeah, let me say
Thank you.
the whole letter is not properly arranged.
I didn't hear that.
I say I said for the bad letter, the whole letter is
Mm-hmm.
not properly arranged.
Okay. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, the
Awesome.
address, yeah.
Awesome.
That's all.
Yeah, good
Okay,
morning,
sir, can I
everyone.
say something? Okay.
Yeah. Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. All right. You already made us understood from your teachings today that a cover letter is supposed to sell us to our prospective employer.
Mm-hmm.
But for this bad cover letter now, like from the arrangement of the characters on his paper to his language and all, has really put him out to be like an unqualified candidate for the job,
Absolutely.
especially on the third line where he said something about, unfortunately, I don't have any relevant work experience. I don't think he doesn't have, I don't think that is entirely true. There should be something, there should be an experience he has, but now he has, like, this is like reducing his mark now. Yes, reducing his mark. Then for the good
Yeah.
cover letter, this person was able to start by letting the employer know the reason why they are writing this letter to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then he went on I think the third paragraph, he was able to sell himself and highlight his strong point or
Mm-hmm.
the areas where he has advantage on. Then the last paragraph, he was like, that's his call to action. Yes, that was his call to action. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was really good. That was really good. Well done. Man, this class has been really fantastic. Thank you so much for your engagement. Because it's one thing to teach and then have people who understand what you've taught and be able to translate it, and you can see that they now understood what you're saying. But the fact that you guys are even able to point some of this thing out is evident the fact that this class has been successful. And I hope that going forward, when you write your cover letters, you'll be more intentional about it. So I know we have a few more minutes, but I'm just going to take all the questions that we have now. But for the sake of decorum, I'm going to ask that um, you know, I'm going to ask that we use the raise hand function so that I'm able to call you guys as you. So if you're not going to ask a question, please don't raise your hand. So I'm going to take all the questions at the go. So if you know you have a question, please raise your hand and then I will take the question the way it shows. So the first person showing on my radar is Car Girl. Hadijat. I think it's Hadijat. Hadijat, if you can hear me, please unmute your mic and let's have your question. Hadijat. Hadijat.
I'm here. Hello.
Yes, you raised your hand. You have a question.
Oh, that was then. I did not. Sorry, I did not
Please
change
lower your
it.
hand. Yes, please lower your
Okay,
hand.
I just did that now. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have Hillary. Hi, Hillary. I have a question. On any part of the conversation we've had, you can take me back to the beginning if you like. Let's have all our questions. I'm here for you guys today.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me, Mr. Praise?
Yes, I can hear you, Hillary.
Okay, so thank you for the class so far. It's been enlightening. I have some questions. Okay, first of all, as regards regards to the education parts, let's say, okay, for someone like me that is taking a course that is online, it's ongoing. It's like should I say an open university? Do I
Okay.
need to add it? Will there be a consequence for me adding it? Like, will my prospective employer that okay, she's ongoing, so schooling, wherever? Would it be like a would they have a consequence on me? And secondly, for some job description that they are giving, like, okay, you need to have a 5-year experience in so and so. Now, I might not particularly have a 5-year experience in that particular role, but if I spread it, I don't have a 5-year experience in that job roles. Do I still also have to things like, okay, I have a 5-year experience in so and so, or should I just spread it? I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say.
So the second question is not very clear, but can you take it again so I'm sure I understand what you're asking?
Okay. Let me use this as an example. Let's say I've worked in an industry, I've worked as a filling station, I've worked as a assistant to CEO, so, and I'm applying for a role in for an assistant for someone else. Now, having had experience in an eatery, in a filling station, and so, do I also include it because one of the job descriptions says that you must have a 5-year experience. Now, if I add everything, like all my work experience, maybe I have a 5-year experience. Do I need to still add it, or should I just forget it and say, okay, it's just a 1-year experience I have in
No. So I understand your question now. So for the first question that you asked, I think it was around
schooling.
Sorry?
Schooling.
Okay, yeah.
Like
So of course,
ongoing.
it's absolutely acceptable to add an ongoing course or degree you're taking on your CV. As long as you know when you're most likely to complete it, you can include it on your CV. Absolutely, absolutely. Certification, education, you can include it. If you must communicate that you know it's yet like you're yet to achieve that degree, you can say in view. Some people, if you go on LinkedIn many times, see people say ACA in view. It means that they're currently working on it and it's something they're looking forward to. But if you know the date you're going to graduate, you can just include it there from January to XYZ or from 2020 to 2023. Include it there. It's very much allowed, right? And then it elevates your talent appeal. And then for the other question around, see, work experience is not speaking to one particular experience, right? You can have a culmination of experiences that overall contributes to your overall work experience. So the work experience they're asking for is not specific to one role that you have taken. It is a culmination of all the experiences you've had as a person. What you might now be questioning is if that accumulation of experiences you've had are relevant to the job that you're applying for. So you have two options. Is that you include it there I mean, like I always say, let it be relevant. If the experience you have is already, find a way to make it relevant by being creative with how you speak about that experience. But when they're looking at the experience, they're not just going to look at the most recent experience you have. It should be a culmination of all the experiences you've had to now say, oh, this person has this number of years of experience, and that is why they're qualified for the role. And should I even tell you guys a secret? Sometimes when they say 5 years work experience, it's not necessary that you must have the entire 5 years. I know people who have applied for roles that say 5 years work experience and they only have two. But because of how compelling their CV was, because of the kind of things they've done, the kind of certifications they've taken, they got the job. Because what? It's about value. This job this job journey is about the kind of value you're able to translate for the organization. So you may not have the many years of work experience, but if what you've done is potentially positioning you to handle the job, my dear, go for it. Take a shot. Many times you don't have to apply for only the jobs that you have work experience for. Sometimes they say 5 years. If they say 5 years work experience and it's only two that you have, and you can do that job, apply. Let them call you for the interview and let you defend yourself and say, see, this thing, I can do it. Forget this experience. I have it. You don't need to, like, you don't. So let me ask you a question. Like, what is the guarantee that someone who has done it for 5 years can do it better than someone who has started doing it for 2 years? The person who has started doing it for 2 years might have taken an extra step that the person who is doing it for 5 years haven't taken. The person doing it for 2 years might have done a course that the person who has been doing it for 5 years have not done. And that makes them better equipped for the role. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's the logic around it. Don't let those work experience things deter you when you're applying for a job. Many times it is inconsequential, to be honest. And I hope that answers your question, Hilary.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
Awesome. The next person I'm seeing here is Nelson Otto. So please go ahead and ask your question. And please, if you ask your question, you can stop raising your hand. Fatima, your mic is
Good afternoon, sir.
unmuted. Good afternoon, Nelson.
Sir, I want to ask a question. Is the own personal address necessary in the cover letter?
It is not necessary, to be honest, because it's already what's on your CV is your location, Lagos, Nigeria. So I don't think, in my opinion and my professional opinion, I don't think it's important to include your personal address.
That's what I want to ask.
All right. Thank you, Nelson. Up next, we have Bonnie Joy Kaburuk. Please go ahead to ask your question. Yeah, Joy. Joy, if you're speaking, we cannot hear you. Okay, so for the sake of time, Joy, I will call you back again and maybe check your network because I cannot hear you
I'm
right now.
sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, I can hear you now. Awesome.
All right, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Please, mine is about the addressing on the cover letter. I remember someone said I don't know if it is a must, you must include an address in the cover letter, because I remember there was a seminar I went to one time and they were like, you should avoid putting addresses, especially when you're writing cover letters. So like instead of maybe I'm applying because some organizations, I don't know if it depends on the organization. Let me say, for example, there was a job I applied recently for an AI AI translator. So it's a remote job and it's online. And most times, some of them don't have addresses that you can address that particular, let me say, company that you're applying to.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
is it a must that you must put the address, or you can just go ahead with the salutations and then maybe put dear hiring manager, or do you necessarily have to put like your address, an address of the company in the cover letter? Yeah, so
So,
that's just one.
yeah, thanks for your question. So my very first answer right off the bat would be, it is important to include the company's name and their address. Maybe not the entire address. You might just have an idea of which country the company is located in. So let's say, for example, the country is in the US. You don't know the specific address. And if you have done your research, to be very honest, if you have gone online, you've typed the name of that company, and you don't see anything about them online, many times is a red flag. But let's say you want to still give it a shot. You can apply to them, write the name of the company, and include whatever information you have about them. So let's say the company is in the US, you don't know the specific address, it's not on their website. I can just say XYZ company. Maybe you know the city in the US that they're in, say California, USA. If you don't know the city, you can just say United States of America and then move on to say J hiring manager. I hope that answers your question.
Oh yeah, you have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bunny. Thank you for answering. You can lower your hand now. Let's have Sahar Kofa.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Sahar.
Yeah, I want to appreciate you for your gesture and actually your delivery system. Highly astonishing. And my
Thank
question
you.
is, regards the curriculum vitae, the first aspect of it, the personalities. Regarding the gender, because certain job adverts do being specific on the gender, the gender level. Some do ask for only males, only females. So if you don't include your gender in the personalities, how will the employer actually detect this is a male, this is a female? And second one regards the CV. If indeed you are also in you haven't attained the first or university degree yet, and you stopped at secondary school, higher education. Now that you want to apply for a job that requires a qualification, educational qualification that ends with a higher education, could you include a national primary school examination paper or BECE? Can that be included? These are the questions
Okay,
I have.
so
Thank you very much.
I will answer yeah, sure. I'll answer the second question. So if, like I said, let the most recent academic qualification you have take prominence. So if you already have a secondary school education, right, there's no need speaking about your primary school education, because except maybe it is required in the job application, like they say, oh, include XYZ and XYZ detail. If it is not specifically required or requested for, the best approach is to use your most recent education qualification to lead with it. Because before you even got to that point, you must have passed the previous one. I don't know if that makes sense. So my recommendation all the time will be, let your most recent education qualification take prominence in your CV. And with regards to your first question, now, that thing around gender, I don't know, like I have a problem with it. I have a serious problem with it. Bringing people on board in your company, should it be about their, I know there's a conversation around um like gender hire. Some people do diversity hire, like where they try to balance up the hiring scale and make it, like slightly diverse, right? All of those considerations should be there. But at the initial stage, it should be more around the value a person is bringing than their gender. But let's say, for what is what, that thing is critical for them. Gender is very much important. Then you know that you are tailoring your CV to apply for that particular job. if it is required in the job application, include, because I know there was a time I was applying to a bank in Nigeria, and I know I wanted to apply to one bank in Nigeria. I'm not going to call the name of the bank now. And they said, include, like in the application email they sent to us, they include XYZ detail. I felt like that information was not necessary, but because of they have requested for it, I had to tailor my CV to suit that specific job application. It doesn't mean that that is the best practice, but because of this particular employer I'm applying to is requesting for it, then I can include it. But if they do not request for it, I'm not going to give them a gun to shoot me in the head. Me, I'm not going to give them a gun because all those details create biases. Some people will just see that you are, and these are very sensitive conversations. Some people might just see because of the parts of the country that you're from, they can just automatically disqualify you by virtue of it alone. You cannot take out the human element in the recruitment process, to be very honest. So, except it is requested by your prospective employer, do not include it. And that will be my recommendation. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, sure. Thanks very much.
You're welcome. Let's have Idara in Melbourne, Angel. I'm going to hasten this up because I need to leave very soon, but I'll try and answer all the
Good
questions.
afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sorry, one second, Dara.
Okay, sir. My question is that
Please hold up for a second. Please, the attendance link is on the chat box, so please ensure to fill
my
that.
question is that right now, currently, is someone else talking?
No, Shifa was just saying that the attendance link is on the chat. So if you haven't signed the attendance for this class, it would be great for you to do that right now. So please go ahead with your question, Angel.
Okay. So my question is now, I'm currently in my second year, and I'm studying accountancy. I write content for organization as my school press. And I'm currently voting for an organization. I volunteer DM routes. I think I should working on my resume now instead of CV. That's my first question. And my second question is that on the CV curriculum, there was space for work experience and volunteering. So I want to work on my resume now. And one internship that I applied for, they asked for my resume or CV, and I don't have any work experience now. So should I write I've done a lot of trainings and done lots of trainings and lot of volunteering. Should I write my volunteering work as my work experience? So that's my question now.
Okay. So I did not hear the
Yes,
first
sir.
question you asked because you were breaking up at some point.
Okay.
But do you mind asking your first question again, or just reminding me what it was about?
Okay. I said that okay, I've done lots of volunteering and I've not done any payable job yet. So
Okay.
I was asking if I should use my volunteering job as my work experience
Okay.
now.
So my recommendation would be tag it as volunteer experience, but then as in show it on your CV like the way you would have done a work experience, the title, the role, and what you've done. So instead of calling it a work experience, I would just say better to, it's either you say, you can just put it as experience and write your volunteering as a work, like the way you would have typically done a work experience, or you can make it known that it's a volunteer experience, whichever works for you. But if you have other experiences, right, that you want to include in your CV beyond your volunteering, then it's okay to differentiate the both of them. So what I'm saying is if you don't have all the relevant work experience that you need, you can just put on your CV experience, right? Just put it as experience, or just say, I don't know, it's about the way you target. So if you say it's experience, then you can now indicate all of those things you've done the way you'd have done a work experience. But my ideal approach would be specifying that it's a volunteer engagement, because many times it can get confusing when you say experience. The employer might be thinking that you've worked in that organization. You get, even though it's a volunteer engagement. So it's always good to create that differentiator. But I mean, it just really depends on your preference, what it is you want to do. So if you don't have any other work experience at all, you can just tag it as, a professional experience, and then write all of the things you have done in your volunteering engagement. I hope that helps.
Yes, sir. I have another question.
Yes, please.
Yeah, on the cover letter, there was no heading. Like after the DSR, I heard that we like normal. You're supposed to write the heading before after the DSR. Write the heading and your letter, but there was no heading on the cover letter template that was sent.
So that is like I was saying, this is an application. The cover letter is slightly different from like a proper formal letter. So some people include a title, but based on best practice, like the example I showed you was from a piece from Harvard University, like Career Center. Those like title are not relevant because you already have your CV. Your cover letter is just accompanying your CV. So they already know why you're applying. But if you want to include a title there, that's also fine. But ensure that you follow the rule of the title. If you're writing it in caps lock, you know that you cannot underline it. You only underline it when you're writing it as in sentence format. So best practice, people don't include that in the cover letter, but if you want to include it, that's also fine. I hope that makes sense.
Okay, sir. Yeah, thank you, sir.
All right, so we're running out of time. Let's take all your questions and I'll try to answer them as quickly as I can. So let's have Deslin Joafambire. Sorry, I don't know if I
Yes,
got that right.
yes, yeah.
Apologies.
It's okay. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much. I've really learned a lot, and I've seen I'm a final year student in USIU in Kenya, so I've been writing my CV. I did my internship, and this is my final year. I'm looking
Okay.
forward to transition in the world soon. So I have a question. Yeah, I've been working with different organizations,
Okay.
so I put them like as experience on my CV. So I
Mhm.
want to ask you a question regarding I've seen on the curriculum vitae, like
Okay.
example, I've seen like what you are currently doing. Like there's this, like you say, I've been working since maybe, for example, 2023 up to present. When you
Mhm.
are looking for a new job opportunity, I want to ask you, is the company going to hire you if you say you are currently working?
Yeah,
Because,
absolutely.
yeah, and
So
other
do you,
question, why, like,
let me
I
give more
wish
details
you,
to my answer. Let me give more details to my answer. The reason why, you know how you say, like working from 2023 to present and using to apply, is showing that your current employer, you're currently in a place of position, but you're looking to move. That is completely fine because they also are aware that if you get the opportunity, there's something called a window period. So in most organizations, when you're working there, they tell you that before you resign, you'd have to give them a 1 month notice. So organizations understand that, and it's okay to say that you're still in an organization. They understand that if you eventually land this role, they also need to factor in the fact that you might need time to leave your former employer to join them. However, it might also impact in the interview questions. They'll ask you, "Oh, I know you're currently here. Why are you looking to move?" Or then that is now a different conversation around how you position yourself, to answer questions like that. I think we have a session around like going over an interview, and maybe in that class you get to hear more about stuff like this. But let's hear your second question.
okay, thank you. My second question, you have already touched it. I want to ask you, like, if you can teach us about the interview confidence, like how you answer
Oh,
interview
okay.
questions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think there's a session around. I'm not sure. I think I have to confirm that with Shafa. I think there's a session around how to go about an interview. There's an entire course on that, like an entire class on that. So if that is also part of your program, then it should be
Yes,
involved and
then.
we'll have that class.
Yes, there is.
Shafa, you're saying something?
Said yes, there is, and you're the one taking it.
Okay, great. So yeah, so when we have that session on the interview, we're going to discuss that in detail. I hope that answers your question, Desley.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Let's have Umar. Umar, your question? If Umar is not speaking, can we have Nena?
Sir, here I am. Omar is here.
Okay. Hi, Umar. You have a question?
Hi, sir. How are you? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Fine, sir. So, thank you for all this session. Indeed, it was really educative. So my question here is, you talked about from the first time you started about the curriculum vitae. My question here is, from what I learned or from what you explained earlier, it means that every time and always our curriculum vitae should be updated, right? Should be always edited and updated.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have another question. If you are a fresh graduate, for example, and then you may lack some experiences, you haven't did a lot of jobs. So the content of your CV may be very few, which will not be that fascinating. So how can we move on with that?
Okay, that's a very interesting question. I think that the straight answer to that is personal development. So I get that you might not have all the work experiences, and that's why I usually encourage people in university. I mentioned when I started that I run a hub. It's called the Student Personal Development Hub. The essence of that hub is really to guide students on the journey to on their personal development journey. I always tell people when you're in school, you're not just there to study, you're there to build a life. Like you're really there to experience life. So beyond what is going on academically, there's a way you can engage yourself in other school programs that sort of like gives you an edge over others. One of the critical things I learned when I was interviewing at McKinsey was their emphasis on students who have done a bit of leadership. So there are a lot of opportunities for students within the university environment to take on leadership positions, from your department to your church to your fellowship to even, your faculty. Many times those things come in handy. But let's say you don't get the opportunity to experience that. How about other student associations, volunteering engagements? These are ways that you can continue to improve on the quality of your experiences so that you have a lot of things to say. But let's say now you're in your final year and you don't have all of these experiences. What can you do is to start now. What are some courses you can volunteer with? What are some courses you can take online? What are some programs you can sign up for? And that's why when I was talking about the CV, I gave multiple sections. Some of them are optional. So you have the leadership, you have awards, accomplishments, you have trainings and certification segment. So you can get creative around it. So just imagine that you have education, you have like work experience, even if it's just one work experience you have, and then you have your volunteer experience, and then you have the skill section. Your CV is already one page, it's already full. So now that you understand all these various segments of your CV, it's just a way to look around how to creatively put it together and have something wholesome for yourself. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, so that means under leadership, for example, you are once a class rep in your class. That
Absolutely.
Means, yes,
absolutely.
So you can also include that.
Definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Like I keep saying, don't underestimate any experience you have. That's one of the things I said when we were having this conversation. Do not underestimate any of the experiences you have. There's a way to creatively communicate it that makes it translate as something of value.
Yes, that's right. Thank you, sir.
All right. You're welcome. Let's have Nina.
Yes. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, sir, for this opportunity that you gave to us to learn. It's really engaging, expository, and Creative. Thank you so much, sir. God bless you.
Thank you.
So my question is this, most of my voluntary engagements is usually in the church, as in fellowship. It's not like companies, like all these companies. Can I still put them as my voluntary experiences?
Absolutely, absolutely. See, the focus is not on the organization that this is done in. The focus is really on the skill itself. You get, regardless of the organization that you're doing, whatever volunteer engagement you're doing, what is communicating is what courses are you interested in and passionate about, and what are the skills that you're building in that experience. Those are the most important things. So whether it's in a church, is in a school, wherever it is, as long as you're doing something that is contributing to your skill set, it is relevant. I hope that makes sense.
Okay. Yes, sir. Secondly, I studied taxation. I'm serving now,
Okay.
but I don't have like experiences relating to my course, exception of as in like finances, exception of when I did like POS work, and the company I'm inspiring to apply for, they're asking of 5 years experience, and also that the person must have completed NYC. So in this case, what will I do? Like, I'm a taxation student, fresh graduate. I've not worked or gained any experience relating to my course. So what will I use as work experience, and how do I go about it?
Okay, so you know about the CITN. Like I keep saying, like this is a journey. Personal development is a journey. So you need to communicate to your prospective employer that you have an interest in the field that you're looking to go into. You might not have the work experience, but you must have shown a bit of interest in various ways. You may not have direct experience in tax. Can you get an accounting internship? And like you said, you're still doing your NYSC. In Nigeria, it's against the law to give someone a full-time employment when they've not completed the NYSC program. I hope you guys are aware. So you guys should not put a lot of pressure on yourself. During your NYSC, what are you doing? Maybe some of you got to teach in school. There's a way you can communicate that you taught courses around accounting and taxation, right? Let's say the experience you have is teaching, and then you can see maybe the courses you were taking is around accounting and finance. You can speak that, oh, you actually commerce, exactly. You're talking about how, you can talk about how you're teaching students around commerce and the impact of taxation, and the importance of taxation as a civic responsibility. That can be something you can pitch on your CV. Let's say you don't have direct tax experience, but you have done an internship as an accounting intern. That is also relevant. Let's say you don't have experience as a tax person, but you've done something around project management. These are skills. There's something called transferable skills that are
Yes,
critical for you. Exactly. So highlight those experiences as what you have and communicate your interest in tax. So if you want to continue pursuing tax, you need to show your interest. You should have started registering for the CITN exams that's available for you in Nigeria. You should have maybe started doing your ICANN exam if you have the ability to do that. Those are the ways to communicate your interest. You should have taken courses on Coursera on taxation that you can add on your CV. And like I said, it's not one thing you guys need to understand is not every job is for you. There are just some jobs that you know that you don't have the leverage to land. Don't just pace yourself. You're not going to land a job that is requiring 5 years work experience when you don't even have one. What you should focus on is looking for
and 5
opportunities
professional
to gain.
certificates.
Exactly. So look for opportunities to help you gain at least 1 year work experience. You can't be applying for a job that requires 5 years experience when you don't even have 1 year experience. Look for an opportunity to get the 1 year experience, even if it's an internship. I hope that makes sense, Nina.
Yes, sir.
So, guys, for the sake of time, I'm going to take one question from each person. No, Nina, you cannot ask me another question. I have a lot of hands up, so let's give other people an opportunity to speak. Yeah, thank you. So let's have Eunice. Please, I'm going to just take one question from every other person whose hands are up. Let's just give everyone an opportunity to ask a question. So Eunice, You have an opportunity to ask me one question. So highlight the most important question you have, and let's go. And let's do that quickly, please. If Eunice is not ready, let's hear from Onyinye Waigwe.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes,
I'm
I can hear you.
ready. Good
Good
afternoon.
afternoon.
Okay, good afternoon. Like,
Thank you so
Onyinye,
much for the class,
apologies.
sir. I came a
Yes,
bit
let's hear
late, so I
from
want to
you.
ask this. Yeah.
Go ahead with your question, Eunice, please. Eunice, I think your network is bad, Eunice. Let's hear from Onyinye. We don't have
Yes.
time.
Is CV and resume the same thing?
Oh my goodness.
Hello?
Sorry? Yeah, sorry, what was your question? Eunice, what's
Can
your
we refer to a
question?
CV as a resume? Yes. Can we refer to a CV as? Can you hear me?
Interchange. They can be used interchangeably. Yes. If you join the class from the beginning, you should already know that.
And
Yes.
lastly, please, just one more.
You have one
Can we
question, Eunice.
use CV builders like? Yes.
CV builders are not going to give you the best experience. I would always recommend you write your CVs
All right.
yourself. You can leverage it to maybe create some of the things you want to write, but don't use it to generate the entire CV. I can easily tell when a CV is written by AI.
All right.
Thanks, Eunice. Let's hear from Onyinye Wigwe.
Okay, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Onyinye. Onyinye, please, you have one question.
Okay, sir. I just have one though. I wanted to ask regarding CV writing, academic CV precisely.
Okay.
Where does publications come in? Like, do you create a caption for publications or under
So
accomplishments?
it can come in as a separate section on itself because of how critical it is. You know, in academia, publications are very, very, very critical, right? They want to see what publications you've made. So it can have an entire section on its own where I don't know if you guys can still see my screen. I wanted to show you a direct example of what I'm talking about. Can you still see my screen?
No, I can't. It's blank. I can't see it.
Okay, let me share my screen again so that you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, it can have a separate section on its own, where you can clearly identify all the publications you've made because of how critical publications are. I don't know if you can see my screen now. Should be able to see it now.
Blank. Okay, I can see it now.
Okay, so you can see this CV. There's a separate section for it that has publications where you can just highlight all the publications that you have. And this person also included links to those publications. So there's a way you can hypertext, the link on your CV such that when someone sees it, they can click on it and it can take them to the publications directly. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, next person we have, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. We have Blessing Agbo. Blessing, let's hear from you quickly. One question.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your teaching. My question is, what are the difference between motivation and cover notes and the difference between work experience and profession experience? Yeah.
So
Work
work experience
experience.
and professional experience, they are used interchangeably depending on which you're more comfortable with, right? You can use them interchangeably. It's the same thing. It's just difference in nomenclature. And for your question, what's the difference between motivation and cover letter? Is that what you asked?
Yes, please.
There's no like
Yes.
motivation for applying for the job.
Motivation letter. I usually get that they say attach your motivation letter. Is it the same thing with cover?
I think yes. I think yes. It's exactly the same thing. Why exactly are you applying? It's the same thing as a cover letter. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for your question. Let's have Delight Ebunta. Delight, you're up.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much for this privilege. And so far, the class has really been wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, currently I'm doing an upskilling. I studied microbiology in school. I'm doing an upskilling on digital marketing course and still on progress. So I
Okay.
don't know when constructing my resume, I don't know if I should major on the digital marketing since I'm doing an upskilling to digital marketing, or I should still use my microbiology certificate.
So, to be very honest, if you're looking for a job in digital marketing, you need to communicate on your CV that you want a job in digital marketing. Your education, your education can still have microbiology, but you need to show your prospective employer other things that you've done to communicate your interest in digital marketing. So if you've taken a course in digital marketing, let it show. If you've done any work experience around digital marketing, let it show. Whether or not your first degree is showing microbiology is irrelevant. What's relevant at this point is the fact that your CV is communicating your passion for digital marketing, and that is what is most important. So whether or not you have a degree in microbiology, a lot of people have degrees in different things and they don't pursue a career in that field. What is important is communicating or showing your interest in the field that you said you want to pursue a career in. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
You're
Lastly,
welcome.
I don't know if you can help share your manual with us.
This is intellectual property work. I don't think I might be able to do that. What I
Okay.
can do is to send some samples of CVs to Shafa and she'll send it over to you guys.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome. Let's have Ceci, Rebecca, Samuel. Please, guys, you have one question. The last person I'm taking is Onu Godwin. Deborah, you just raised your hand now. Unfortunately, I might not be able to take your question, but let's just see how it goes. Ceci, you can go ahead.
Good afternoon. Thank you so
Good
much for your time.
afternoon.
The
Sure.
lesson has been educative. So my question is, can cover letter, is it necessarily it's in template? Because what about if it's in the case of an email application? Do we have to put it in template, or can you just draft it down like a normal text, then attach your CV to it?
Ceci, did you join the class from
I did.
like did you follow the class? Because if you did, we spoke about a cover letter and a cover mail. I don't know if you were in the class when we discussed that. Let me see if I can get.
My network, so probably I missed that.
So we had a session where we discussed. Okay, so do you remember this section of the class where we talked about a cover email?
Letter.
This is so we discussed a cover mail and
First question. Okay, do I have to use like to type it out in a template using like Word, MS Word, or can I just
no. You can write it on the so this is supposed to be on the body of the email, and then you attach your CV to that
yes, that's
email.
perfect.
Yeah, so it's supposed to be on the body of the email. Some people will still attach their cover letter as an attachment, but then the body of the email still contains the details of the application.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We would like you to please send us examples of how a CV should look like, so we can just, those of us having issues with our CV can just follow your path.
Yeah, I actually shared a lot of samples, and some of your classmates also, gave a review on those CVs. But like I said, I probably will share some samples with Shafa, and then she'll forward it to your class.
Okay, so because now I think I can't be able to apply for jobs I don't have experience in.
Okay. Thank you, Stacey, for your question.
Okay.
Let's have Edith Young Noah. Edith Young Noah. If he's not available, let's have Esther Adarugbemi.
Good afternoon, sir. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Esther. Good afternoon.
Thank you so much for the insightful session. I have a question. For the past couple of years, I've been opportuned to be able to have a vast number of experiences. However, I'm in the university. I'm currently in my final year, and get to add that in my professional background at the top of my CV, I get to add that I am this, with BA in view. And I find that a couple of hiring managers get to tell me that, oh, wow, they want to work with me. They're a little bothered about my schooling, if it's not going to affect work. And so they just want to keep my CV and bring me on board when I am done in school. So do you think that this is something that I should remove? Especially seeing that some of these jobs may be remote or hybrid. I really do not have to be at the office every time. So is this something that I should remove? Then on some application forms, on some application forms, what you just find is they put that your level of education, and I'm just looking at it in view. I'm not done. So if I feel all those things and I know that my grade is going to be, say, first class, if I feel all of those things when I do not have it, is that considered as lying or whatever? I don't know. So I'm just asking if you can guide on best way to go about it.
So that's a very interesting question. Now, about your work experience, you understand the concern that your prospective employers have about you being in school and working, right? But then again, like you said, it's better to just leave it there. Let the employer know everything they need to know, because it's going to be funny if they hire you and then they realize that, oh, you're still a student, and they're like, oh, we didn't know that. Or when they hire you and they ask you to send in your degree certificate and then you don't have it available, you need to ensure that they have all the details. And it's important that you're honest in your journey to landing a job. Let them say, oh, we know you're in school, oh, but we still want you on our team. Let it be their decision. I would advise you don't take that decision away from them by removing the details that needs to be on your CV for them to make an informed decision around, your candidacy. So if you're still in school, please include the timeline. If it's in view, please include. But then instead of saying in view, how about you put the timeline from XYZ time to XYZ time, as opposed to saying in view? Because in view might be vague. They might not know when you're finishing. But if you maybe say, from 2023 from December 2023 to say October 2024, then it gives them all the information to say, oh, she's going to be done in like 4 months. Let's wait for her. Or she's going to be done in 4 months. Let's give her the job while we manage the situation for that 4 months that she's in school. Give them all the information. Let them make that decision, as opposed to hiding it, and it becomes an issue in the long run. And that would be my recommendation.
Did I understand? So how about the links? I do not apply for those kind of jobs.
For the links, I mean, they can say what's the highest degree that you're getting is also you've not landed it, but then you know that it's going to be an ABSc and it's going to be first class. But then that's a very dicey one. I would say still including it there, is not lying. But then when it now comes to verifying the situation, from the perspective of the employer, it should look like you're lying, even though that is our actual truth. So for example, even if you know you're going to get a first class, the employers can't tell until your school confirms it to them. I don't know if you understand my point. So my advice would be apply for jobs that gives you an opportunity, that knows that you're still a student and they still want to have you on board. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. Okay, so who's the next person that we have? We have Godwin Onu. Hi, Godwin.
Hi, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir. My question is, if you're applying for a role, but your experiences are not related to that particular role you're applying for, is there no way you can tailor or adjust these experiences of yours to suit or almost fit into that job role you're applying for? And if you are writing a cover letter as email, and then the employer specifically said, this is the subject to use for your email, because you told us about, writing a catchy or attractive subject
Wait,
for
I
your
said
email.
you can do that if it's a cold
Okay.
application. I made a disclaimer around it. If it's a
Okay.
cold application, but if your employer, is saying you should use XYZ subject, please use what they ask you to use. Don't go and do wasabi. If not, they will just delete your application from their email.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So the first question you asked around tailoring and stuff. So the thing is, first of all, when you're applying for a job, you don't have experience and relevant things to communicate your interest in that role. You might not have the experience, but if you have, like I've been saying this a lot of times, if that role they're applying for, you have an interest in it, you need to have shown that you actually have an interest in it. You can't just wake up one morning and expect your CV to shape into what that role is requiring. So many times you need to do self-reflection. This role that you want to apply for, what have you done with regards to you might just like something, but then you have not taken action. Nobody might want to take a chance on you. But if you have deep, so it's just like saying, I take you to the river bank and I tell you to enter the water. No, you tell me, oh, I can swim, I can swim, I can swim. And then you put your leg in the water and you are afraid of doing it. That is a typical description of what that thing is. You have not shown your prospective employer that you can dip your leg in the water. You need to show that you can actually dip your leg in the water and swim. At least you can flap your hands and then they can help you. But if you don't even have anything that they can stand on to help you, then it becomes a problem. So you need to have, if you have an interest in something, you should have dipped your leg in, either by taking a course, taking a certification, or finding an experience in that field and learning. That is the only way an employer can say, okay, let's take a chance on this person. But if you don't have anything, I'm not going to lie to you, it's going to be really difficult to convince an employer that you are the right candidate for the job. Just like saying, for example, now you apply for the role or you have an interest in software development and you cannot even do basic code. There's no employer on earth that will want to give you a chance, no matter how intelligent you are, no matter how eloquent you can speak. What is the basic requirement for this role? Do you have it? If yes, then there is now a chance for you to have a conversion. If not, go and build that experience, go and build that interest, then come back. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, that's the last question I'm gonna take because of time. Apologies to those who raised their hands later on. I checked the last person as that's when hands were raised, and then that was the last person I just took was the last person that raised his hand. So Deborah and Ujak, I'm sorry. You can send your questions to Shafa and then she'll send it to me and I'll try my best to respond. But that's all from me, guys. Thank you so much for your time and do have a lovely weekend ahead. Bye.